Hold on. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Dude, this new camera setup. I need to get used to this. Come on, bro. Flex it.
Okay.
Flex it.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Wait,
God
I'm
damn it.
relaxing.
Other arm. Other arm. I'm sorry. Do the other arm.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right. Good, 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 good. It's a good picture, my man. Okay.
Yeah, we are live. Do you want me to go ahead and put that on Instagram too?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna post right now and I'll tag you.
okay.
And I'm gonna get the music going and I'm gonna get a little Frenbolone going. How's everybody doing? Frenbolone.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay, 1 second. So this is
Three.
episode 3, Frenbolone.
Yeah.
Episode 3
It's
live.
taking a long time.
I'm so sorry. Oh, I forgot we're live, dog. Hold on, you're not Nutrichronology. I was looking for you as Nutrichronology. I forgot. Hold on. 3 seconds left. There it is.
Okay. All right. Uh,
Oh, done. Let's do it.
all right. I'm on Instagram and I'm just gonna go ahead and hey, there's some people here. It's crazy.
What's up, people?
Um.
I did announce that, didn't I?
All right. So, man,
What are your thoughts on
I don't
Neil
see.
Diamond?
I don't see your thing on Neil Young. I haven't
Oh,
really.
Diamond.
Oh, Neil
Not
Diamond.
No, I meant Neil Young, but I said Neil Diamond. Oh no.
Oh, and that's right. He didn't die. He just.
No.
Jesus. Sorry.
Is it happening now?
It's like not
That's my
showing up. Everything's all laggy. All right. Add to story.
It's happening. It's there.
Okay.
Sorry, Kyle.
So
Everybody.
anyway,
Okay, music is
welcome
going down.
everybody to episode like whatever this one is. Okay. First topic. Let's get right into it. So,
Yes.
Caviar. Okay.
Oh. Okay.
Of course everybody knows what caviar is, like as a product. It's fish eggs, right?
Yeah.
And most people are pretty aware that it at least can be, or some people thinks it's always expensive. It's like
No.
like for your champagne wishes and caviar dreams.
Yes. That's the American stereotype of
Right.
it, right?
And then some people also know that it has sort of a Russian or Russo-centric whatever. So my question is, and when I read The Master and Margarita, there's some scenes where they prepare caviar. Like in particular, I think the devil prepares caviar for a character that's passed out in his apartment, and he wakes up and it's like a silver tray.
Mm-hmm.
And there's caviar and there's vodka chilled.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, is there onions?
Bread and onions.
What else
Well,
is
I mean,
there?
there's all sorts of stuff. Well, dude.
Here's what
else
I'm
is
asking you. I'm asking
Yeah.
you, how is it served? And why is it? Because usually when I see a
You-
culture serving something, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, and then I kind of figure it out. But with Russian caviar, I'm like,
It's a whole.
what? Because and the Russians in that book, and I'm assuming in real life, treat that tray with caviar and liquor and other things as refreshing.
Yeah.
Like as if the vodka quenches your thirst, and so caviar's salty, right? Vodka's like not water. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're like, oh,
Snack.
now I'm refreshed from this.
Well, it's an appetizer. It's often an appetizer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know about Russian culture of caviar? It's a huge thing, man.
I was on this weird, because I was looking at tea kettles, and I found this like Chinese
samovars,
antique.
we call them, and Americans are catching on to that. They call them samovar in Russian, but Americans are calling it samovars now. Like actually, they're calling it that when they're selling.
Is that the name of the serving set?
No, literally samovar. Sam is like yourself. Var comes from the word varit, which means like cooking, but in this sense steaming, right? So it's like a self steamer. So that's where that word comes from. It's that big metal setup, right? You ever seen, you know what I'm talking about? It's kind of this just like metal setup. They can be made from anything really, but it's more of like a whole thing. It's not necessarily the kettle part.
Oh, we're talking about kettle now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I was explaining you. Yeah.
Yeah, because so I was looking at Chinese kettles, and there was these really ornate, cool ones. But unfortunately, all the kettles that look cool can't be put over the fire to actually warm up water. So
Yeah.
it's like if you get a really ornate, it's like a serving thing where you put already brewed tea into it, or you put the already heated
Yeah,
water.
or like the Japanese style too, right? They do the same. Yeah, it's already
Yeah.
in there. Yeah.
So it's not actually for heating the water. So I'm like, well, I can't have a whole separate thing just to look nice. But when I was on this website, it had all kinds of exotic from around the world stuff, like kitchen serving stuff, and I saw a bunch of setups for caviar. And it has like a bunch of
Okay.
little plates that I guess you would put in ice, like a thing to hold a bunch of
Yeah.
ice, and things for the vodka and the this and the that. So what's up with that?
Well, like, like all things, there's levels to this game. I'll tell you about the most basic level, like what
Hmm.
like everyday shit. By the way, where I was born in Kamchatka, which is that peninsula right next to Alaska,
Hmm.
right? The Sarah Palin Peninsula that she always, talked about. She can see.
Absolutely.
That's where I was born. That's where I was growing up. That's where most of the salmon fishing and farming goes on, and that's where the best caviar comes from.
Mm.
There's like 15 people there though. Okay, there's more than that, but it's a very far, literally far eastern place. The most basic way of people eat caviar in Russia is like you just have it's first of all it's almost always red caviar, like for salmon caviar, which is not that expensive in Russia. If you go to a supermarket, it's at every supermarket.
Mm.
It's not like it is here where like I'll go and it's like $40 for like what's that, like 2 ounces or
Hmm.
something, like like literally the tiny jars. It's not, I mean, it is more expensive than whatever, beef and chicken, of course, but it's not like known as like an expensive food, the very basic everyday
I
caviar.
think the
And the
basic
most
caviar here is probably 15 or $20 for like 3 ounces, and then the next level up is like 50.
maybe that's honestly, dude. Even here, every once in a while I get a craving for it, and I'll go and try to find some. And it's like it's hard to find cheaper one than that. Like I think the cheapest I've seen was like $30 to $40 at
Mm.
like Whole Foods here. But again, that could be California too.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'm sure things were cheaper in Florida when I was there. Like I was looking at food prices. Anyway, yeah, and the most basic way of consuming is just like bread. If you want to be like super Russian, it's like black bread
Mm.
because it's like in Russia it's known as like that's like the healthier bread because it's like the grain is there and it's black and it just looks cool. It looks different. Yeah, and then you smother that fucker in butter, like a good chunk of butter
Mm.
on there.
Hmm.
If you're like if you, it's kind of like a gangster thing. Like if you want to be real gangster, you put like a lot of butter. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I put a lot of butter. It's kind of like a thing. It really is.
Right.
And then you just cover that in caviar, and there we go. There's breakfast or lunch or a snack.
Mm.
You have it with tea. I eat that. Used to eat that all the time growing up. And then for let's say like, because in Russia we have just like Americans, we have certain foods delegated to like New Year's, and different holidays. For New Year's, there's always going to be caviar, and there's always going to be some bread there. So it's like like as an addition to your main meal too. So that's like the very most basic and common way of doing caviar. But honestly, I would say that most Russians that like just grew up in like a regular place in Russia, like a regular city or town, I don't think rarely, I would say just a few of them have had the really expensive shit. Like I doubt that most of them have had that. Like the stuff that you see here, like right, like the black caviar, the tiny little balls that so, because that stuff is expensive in Russia too, and most of it gets shipped out to places like here in Europe and stuff.
Mm.
And so there, with the posh stuff, that's when you get into like you guys call them blintzes, but it comes from the word blinly. Blinly is like French call them crepes,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? We call them blinly, thin little pancakes,
Hmm.
basically, right? But so they make these small ones specifically for caviar.
Mm.
It's almost, and the Dutch, I forgot, there's a Dutch word for that. They also make them, these little tiny pancakes, but they're sweet. Anyway, so they make these little pancake things, pancake bites, and then you put a little bit of black caviar on top. You pour yourself an ice cold shot of vodka. It has to be ice cold. It's got to be really fucking cold.
Okay.
and you have that as an appetizer. So yeah, that's the posh way of doing
All
it.
right. All right. I think I can do that.
Have you tried caviar? When's the last time you had it?
New Year's. I made some
Oh,
steak tartare and topped it with caviar.
oh, okay. So it's like a little topping. Yeah, like I said, in Russia, you can it could be a whole slice of bread. So
Mm.
it's a lot more caviar than just like you know a little like sushi. They do that, right? They'll often top it with like tiny
Yes.
caviar, but that's not caviar to me because you can't really taste it honestly in all that stuff, and it's so the little stuff is kind of tasteless. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, it's just salty.
Yeah, and then they'll make in Russia they'll make all sorts of stuff with it too, like or to have a real big like a crepe size thing. You know what I mean? Like a real we call it blindy in Russian or blin.
Hmm.
You can wrap that shit with so you put caviar inside and then wrap it up, make it a little a little trubachka, make it a little uh, what do you call it, like a little roll up thing, or you can fold it. There's all sorts of ways of folding them too with caviar. That's gangster.
Right. Okay. So you remember the first Daniel Craig James Bond movie, right? Casino Royale.
It's the best one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
um,
High five. We did not that we agreed on that.
I
We
mean,
didn't know that
that's
we agreed on that.
it's just so obvious. But
Not to most people, bro. I'm telling
so
you,
of the Craig movies,
dude. Do you forget that some people have awful taste in movies?
I just thought that was anyway. So do you remember the scene where he's getting information from a woman that seems Indian or something, and she's married to that guy who's contracted to blow up the jet liner
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the beginning?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Is that from the first one?
Oh,
It is from the
yeah,
first
yeah,
one.
that's the first one. And so
Oh,
he's
okay.
like, she gets a call, and then she's like, "Oh, my husband's not coming home tonight, so we have all night." And he's like, "Well, then we need more champagne." And he calls for champagne. I think it's Bollinger. And then he says, "Oh, and also caviar for two, or no,
Yeah.
for one." And he says caviar, yes, with everything. And then he looks back and he says, "No, for one." And then he leaves. And
Oh,
so,
I
okay, when
remember
he
that now.
says the beluga caviar with everything, what's
Mm.
everything? In that situation,
Oh,
you're in a
just
a
toppings. Yeah,
resort
it's not.
that's expensive.
Honestly, dude, there is no like set piece. I don't know, unless if there's any Russians out there. I don't think there's like a set piece. Honestly, dude, the best way to like everybody knows the best way to enjoy caviar is to just eat fucking caviar off a spoon. No, seriously, that's the thing. And you have it with a shot of vodka.
Hmm.
There's no like, like you said, you could have some onions on the side and
I
you could
feel
have
like
some
raw
tomatoes
onions would go well with it,
in pickles. Raw
or
onions
yeah,
are
or
very
pickled
popular in Russia.
onions even.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
but I'm saying both. I mean, Americans. I've never seen an American eat like a raw onion. To them, that would be fucking wild. You know
Well,
what I'm
not like an
saying?
apple, but
Not, but people eat it in Russia like an apple, dog. Yeah, seriously. Like, I have, yeah. So, and also don't forget, like Russia, like there's like five vegetables, and they're all in. That's it. Like,
right.
there's tomatoes, pickles. Well, okay, tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, and what? Some greens, parsley,
Cucumba.
yeah, like there's not like that's it. Like there's nothing fancy. So it's always like a variation of that. Sometimes they'll do those like small little onions. You know what I mean? Small pickled onions. I don't know what they call that. But that's like fancy American
Oh
shit.
yeah, like what that you put in drinks.
Yeah, what do they call them? Not capers, but there's a word for those things. But anyway,
Yeah,
but that's
they're like
that's
martini
fancy shit.
onions.
Yeah, 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 yeah. What do they make a Gibson with it? Is that what they're for or
I'm
whatever?
sure they go in a lot of drinks.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so that was. I just want. I almost bought like a serving tray for caviar, and then I was like, it's not the right move at
Nah,
this time.
no,
Um,
I would just eat some caviar first. Find the one that you like. Also, there's a lot of shady business in caviar stuff too, because a lot of that beluga caviar is like beluga. It's like mixed, or it's not even from fucking
uh,
the whales. Yeah, it's a shady business. But there's places you can go. I used to have can't remember the name of it. If you really want to get some fancy caviar, I can direct you to a place to go. There's one here actually, like a specific place near Beverly Hills, and this just old Russian Jew. He just sells caviar.
mm,
I was there a long time ago. I haven't been there in a long time. So, and it's like the real stuff, and it's like very expensive,
mm.
you know. So, but yeah, honestly, that's the best way to do it. Spoon caviar right in your
All right. Well, I
mouth,
think
and then
this
take a little.
weekend
chaser.
I'm gonna grab some because I probably have to go to the store for something next time I'm at the grocery store. I know Publix does have not the best caviar, but they have like basic
Ah,
caviar. They have the red that's like a little bit bigger and the black that's a little bit smaller.
get some bread. I wonder, when I was near Tampa area, there's lots of Russian stores there.
Mm.
So there is no problem to find like some Russian products and stuff. But I don't know near where you are if there's any. But if you can, you can get some black Russian bread, spread some butter on there, put
I'm
the
sure
caviar on
there's
top.
some kind of Russian grocery store in Orlando, but I don't know if I want to go through all that. Um,
Oh, well, if you want to get fancy, just letting you know.
all right, second topic. So we've covered caviar. Um, chest hypertrophy.
Oh, chest
Just
hypertrophy.
real
Okay.
quick. So I like the incline neutral grip dumbbell press, but for the
Hmm.
life of me, I can't tell. Now I'm sure I really do try to make sure I'm engaging the chest muscles and not just using my triceps or whatever and
Which is
shoulders.
already big.
Right.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is a challenge for me. Now at the very top, you can really obviously flex your chest and know for sure that that's happening, but the whole rest of the time
Hmm.
it's kind of, I guess the stretch at the bottom, that you're stretching your chest. So like those two extremes, you don't need any kind of external help to know what's happening. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, so anyway, I almost feel like with push-ups, just regular push-ups, I can know that I'm using my chest more. And anyway, so
You're saying you feel the push-ups more than you do an incline press?
I feel like I can,
Or okay, how about you just feel when you're doing push-ups, you feel your chest working.
yeah, I'm aware of it. I feel like I'm aware of it for more of the, now again, some of this is kind of psychological and it could just be that I'm not
Yeah,
picking up on it.
for, for sure.
Uh, but so if somebody, because basically, like the arms and the shoulders for me, it's fine. Like that'll just go how it goes. But I need like a chest catch up.
Hmm. So you want to blast your chest. You
uh,
want to get some chesticles. You know what I would do? Whenever I want to blast somebody, I don't do this with like people that are just starting to train. Because that's another thing, like what you brought up. Let's like talk about that for a second first. What you're saying, like being able to feel and not being able
mhm,
to feel. There's many times I've had this experience many times over my like career, like when I would meet a new trainee and I'd give them a workout and I do all the I mean the workouts are always specific to them, but there's only so many things you can
mhm,
do. I would do a workout for them, the standard, like I said, 3x4 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets, whatever, 3 sets of 12, 4 sets of 10, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and for the life of me, I could never get them to be sore. I would text them and I'd be like, hey, are you sore? And we did, like 12 working sets and like hard and they're sweating. Like I know they're not
mhm,
cheating. There's also, as a trainer, there's also times where like, people are bullshitting you or you get better at catching on to that over time. You know what I mean? Like when you can see the guys like, ugh, but you're like, you're not really, you're at like 80% of that, So anyway, and I could not get them to be sore. And it kind of took me a while. And then over the course of like taking other seminars and looking at whatever muscle, blah, 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 hypertrophy studies and whatnot, and recruitment studies, you figure out that like some people, especially beginners, even if you give them the perfect workout, you make them do it with let's say a tempo, right? Where you have the concentric coming up fast because the eccentric is the one that can make you sore, right? Or trashes more of the fibers. Even if you do it that way, if you do everything perfectly, they just haven't trained their recruitment patterns enough to be able to recruit the muscles, even if they're doing the movement perfectly. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? And then you'll have another guy who maybe also haven't ever worked out, but he just has the genetics,
mhm.
right? And then you give him that same stuff, and he'll be fucking sore for days.
Well, what about recovery? I mean, eventually,
Eventually, they catch up.
and eventually you'll stop being so sore, even if you're doing really really good work.
Exactly, which is that's the case of like changing your exercise routine, right, and doing different exercises. But I'm just saying it's really important because a lot of people like get I feel like almost get discouraged too because they're just like, dude, I'm doing like a lot of reps, I'm doing everything, and they don't get sore at all, and it's very common. Now it's like there's extreme ends, but I've had maybe two clients where literally I would fucking murder them during the course of the workout, and then I'll text them the next day, and you think, okay, maybe it's going to be DOMS,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah.
delayed onset of muscle soreness, maybe 2 days later. Nope. They don't feel nothing. And I know they're like working hard at the gym. And then, of course, like I said, over the course of training or over a year, then they get better at recruiting it. So, like, if you're really experienced, you really need less sets. Not necessarily need, but you can get, the same amount of work done in less sets. Whereas somebody that hasn't had that, isn't experienced, they're going to need a lot more sets to get that muscle recruited. So that's like one thing. I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but we kind of went.
No, yeah, hey, let me just say something real quick. There's a few people saying, "Oh no, same time as Danny's thing," with
Fucking Danny.
So I kind of thought because Danny, I wasn't really thinking about this, but I thought like, didn't he stream yesterday or Wednesday?
I don't know, bro. Honestly, I don't
Oh, okay.
follow his
So
schedule.
he had like a special thing with a few guys, something that Feldman guy and two other guys. I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I heard
So I
about
kind of
that.
thought
I
maybe he
didn't see
wasn't
it though.
streaming tonight. I mean, I don't give a shit. Like he's gonna have like 1,000 viewers, and if I accidentally take 10 viewers from him, it's like,
Well, he does cancel a lot though too, doesn't he? Like a lot of times he's like, "Oh, Ray had to go get more carrots," and it's like, "Oh, he had to cancel, so no carrots, no
yeah.
Ray
Also,
tonight."
somebody asked a couple questions before we get back to what you were saying. Do you or me take any thyroid products, natural or synthetic? You want to start?
Not right now. I've tried. I've been there, done that. I made a post about it on my Instagram. So, been there, done that. Right now,
Yeah,
nothing.
I have some Cytomel and Cytoplus that I cut into quarters, and I think I'm going to have to start experimenting with more than that dose. So a quarter of a normal dose, which is, God, I already forget.
Well, what is it? Yeah, like a quarter is like around that grain, I think, from what I remember, because
It
that's what
might
I
even
think
be
I
a
was
little
taking
bit
too.
less.
Okay,
I would
close
have to
enough,
check.
right? I
So
think that's what I started with.
yeah, I was taking that.
It's real hard to measure. They're so
They're
fucking
hard to
puny, and it's hard.
cut
They're
actually.
very hard to cut, and in measuring, I just gave up, and I would just eyeball it, dude. That's
Oh yeah,
me.
I would just cut them
That's
into
my style.
quarters as best as I could and assume that was about a quarter of
Yeah.
whatever the label says. So I'll probably start experimenting with taking double that, just cutting it in half instead.
hmm
And
I don't know, man. I took it. I went and got my TSH measured. It was 0.05. 0.05. Yeah, it was like so like, and I wasn't taking that
you're
much.
hyperthyroid over there.
Yeah, and then kind of I
Did
was like,
they
whoa.
recommend surgically removing
Yeah,
your
he said
thyroid gland?
no, but he just said are you taking thyroid? Because I talked to him. You know how doctors are. You can't have a conversation with them about
Yeah,
that stuff
yeah,
at all. So yeah, I think I slowly over maybe a week or two just stopped taking it. But yeah, I don't know because I was like if I'm taking a quarter or maybe less, it was definitely less than half. If I'm taking this much and my TSH is at that, I'm like I don't know if I'm taking more is gonna give me any more benefits.
yeah, yeah. I think I have yet to figure out if there's any benefits for me. This is Sinoplus is 120/30 T4 T3. Yeah, and I think Cynomel is like a little bit more T3 than that, but obviously without the
It's
T4.
oh right yeah.
Thyroid, somebody wrote with the roid in capitals.
Oh, that's clever. You're clever, son of a bitch, huh?
And there's one more question. How do you marry bodybuilding with repeat principles? Is the stress just a trade-off for looking like a freak, a troglodyte?
Like a freak, for sure. If you want to just bodybuild, you don't really have you. I mean, I think you probably could
What's
be
your
pretty chill
opinion
about it.
on so I'm not really interested in bodybuilding in the sense of looking anything like a stage bodybuilder.
Mhm.
Really? Cynomel's only 25? That's weird.
I mean, I have some right
Yeah,
in
I have
front of
some
me in
right
my
behind
cabinet.
me.
Just ready to pull it out. Oh, okay, whatever. I was just saying, if you want, I can pull it out, but
um,
whatever.
so I think with bodybuilding, it's pretty clear that there's a limit, like there's a physiological limit, and there's like a normal, there's like, if you just are kind of doing athletic stuff, you're going to look a certain kind of way and, following a good diet. And then if you train specifically for hypertrophy, you're going to look a certain way. And then if you start
Hmm.
taking stuff, and basically like my kind of almost like Taoist, like Wu Wei sense of all
Hmm.
this stuff. And this is kind of with all things. It's like, it's really cool when somebody wants to reach for the infinity in a kind of Faustian way with something. Like, it is cool that there's people out there, there's guys out there that are pushing the limits.
No matter what, zero fucks
Yeah,
given.
and that's
Yeah.
whether it's with bodybuilding or like climbing or
Anything.
and that's
Yeah.
really cool, or or like chess playing. But in
Hmm.
terms of like if you want to integrate this thing into a normal life, right?
Like
Like it's
bodybuilding?
not
No.
your thing, right? It's
Yeah.
not your thing that you're either making
Yeah.
money on, or like this is your only hobby kind of thing. Like, because I one of my issues is I have so many hobbies and interests that it's really hard to put enough into any one of them to really feel great about it. So
Mhm.
but yeah, I think like my kind of goals, like I've said this before, I like basically like movie type physiques, like the kind of physiques where like you take a guy that is basically in shape, like somebody like Brad Pitt, and you give him like
Mhm.
probably 200 milligrams of test per week and get him to lose a couple percent of body.
Casino Royale. Blue swimming
Right.
trunks.
Or Daniel Craig, which was a,
He looked pretty good in
yeah,
that one.
yeah, something like that,
Yeah.
where it's like, it's pretty achieve. In my opinion, you could achieve that natural. They didn't achieve that
Yeah.
natural,
Yeah.
because why would
I
they?
agree.
They
Yeah.
have other things
And
to do.
and and also I mean like Brad Pitt, everybody loves Brad Pitt, but like dude, like we have to like admit and like note that this guy won the fucking genetic lottery. Like
Well, yeah,
literally. Like
that's why we love
he's the
him.
guy that like yeah, well, but I just mean like in everything though. Like he's handsome, he's tall, but he's
He's
also
not
like
that tall. I
if you
think
look at
he's like just under 6 feet.
well, he's a good height.
Yeah,
You're
he's
right.
he's
Well,
he's just
for
like
chicks, it's fine.
slightly above average. But yeah, it's fine.
He's just
Yeah.
there. Yes, yes. But I just mean, and same thing when it comes to like, body composition. Like when you look at him in Fight Club, he's just fucking lean. He probably maybe, of course, the lighting.
Yeah.
He for sure he pumped up before that scene. For sure they doused some fucking sweat on him and oil to make him shine a little bit. But it's not like he was taking fucking Dianabol there, right? Or Winstrol or whatever the fuck it is that guys are taking. Um,
Yeah, I think he
yeah.
was
So
probably taking some tests in order to
little
not
test.
lose muscle to get down to the single digits body fat like that, and he was probably taking some
Hmm.
fat burners. I
Hmm.
mean, he was probably. I think he
Well,
was also smoking a lot of cigarettes. I think he actually says that. He's like, "Oh, I was smoking a lot of cigarettes."
yeah, yeah. But I'm saying, like, even if the average dude did all of that, he still wouldn't look like that. A lot of
Right, right,
times.
right.
He would look very good. He would look a lot better than what he used to look like. But I just mean, like, to look like Brad Pitt is like, you just got to have all those
Well,
things there. You got to have
that's
that fucking lottery.
that's what I'm going for. Not the Fight Club, but the Troy physique.
Well, he's beefier in that one, my friend. Then you do need a little test in you. You
He's
got to
only
stick
he's
it.
only like 175 or maybe 180.
Dude, he's way beefier than he is in Fight Club.
He no, he
Facts.
is, but I think some of
Okay.
that is actually body fat that fills and like glycogen. Like, I think he was essentially
I haven't
starving
seen it in a long
himself.
time. Honestly, that fucking movie sucks. First
Troy?
of all, I haven't seen it in a
Well, it
long time.
sucks, but
Yes.
it's I mean, I like anything that's classical, so.
Story. Oh, okay, okay. But it's a
And the
terrible
cast
movie.
is
I
good.
haven't seen it in a long time.
It's just what are you going to do? Like, it's
No,
a
no. Who's the girl? Who's his princess? Who's the actress?
oh, yeah, she sucks. But the other
Oh,
girl,
okay. So it's not
the
on
art
with the other girl.
Temple of Apollo niece
I do like.
of Priam.
I don't remember. I do like. What's his name? Bana. Bana, is that the last name of that Australian actor? Is he
Oh
Australian?
yeah. I forget Eric. I think Eric.
Eric
Yeah.
Bana. Yeah, Eric. He's a good actor. I like
All
him.
the actors in
He's a
that are
great actor.
good except for the like people that are just there to be pretty, like the
The chick.
Helen, or is it Helen? Yeah.
Honestly, bro, I don't remember. I just remember that the girl is, and all I remember is Bana and Brad in there, and that the movie is super boring. That's
No,
all that I
it's
remember.
not boring, okay? It's
Stop it. Listen, this is the guy that has the patience to watch fucking Sopranos, man.
yeah,
Oh my God. I can't believe
I'll
it.
watch anything, man. Um
It's terrible.
okay, so somebody said Brad Pitt's only flaw chest genetics. I actually think that that's not that, like, yes. But I feel him on that because I have the same.
He has your
Yeah,
structure. He
it's the
has your
same
structure.
situation. And I
You
actually
guys have a
have
similar structure.
embraced that. So when I asked you about the chest hypertrophy stuff, I want to catch up a little bit, but I'm not trying to have, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger
Right.
proportions, like, because
Right.
that's just not.
But generally speaking, like generally, very generally, you're gonna have dudes that have a bigger chest, bigger back, and smaller arms.
Right.
Me. Or you're gonna have guys that have bigger triceps, bigger biceps, bigger arms, but smaller, dense. Kind of, it almost looks like a
Hmm.
concave kind of, not in a bad way, but just a little bit. I'm saying
Yeah,
chest
and
look.
I
So you're
think
gonna have those,
you can
and
see
then,
that in classical statues. You can see these different
yeah.
types.
Well, you can even see it in bodybuilders now if you really pay attention. And then every once in a while you get those freaks that just have it all. They have the small waist, they have the big arms and big chest. I'm thinking, oh man, we are going all over the place today. So my brain, what? Do you know the bodybuilder, Flex Wheeler? Flex Wheeler, he just got his leg
Oh,
cut off
yeah.
recently. Have you ever seen him in his prime?
Yeah.
He was like, if he could have kept going and just like
Hmm.
not be, because he's kind of seems like an unstable person to me, but
Yeah. He always had
he
issues.
had like he had it all though, dude. But he had like tiny waist, but massive lats, big back, big arms,
Hmm.
big chest. So everyone, that's where you get
And
those freaks
everything's
from.
really
Those are the
round.
yeah, yeah, in a good way,
Yeah.
right? Like also like like if you take your bicep and how many fingers can you fit between the bicep head and the elbow here? Like if you have really short muscle fibers here or
Hmm.
not. Like I can fit like a fucking hand in here. Then you have guys that their bicep goes from their shoulder right all the way down into that elbow, and that's how you get that like really big looking arm, like the first Mr. Olympia. What do they call him? Larry Scott. Scott curls. You ever seen Larry Scott's physique? Pull him up. Check out his arms. It was just arms back then, but he has your structure. What?
Uh,
Going too much on a tangent?
no, I don't have like a great way to look at that, Larry Scott.
Oh, I'll put him up if
No,
you want.
I got it. I
I'll
got it.
pull
I
him.
got it.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See, but you see the chest is small, right? But the fucking arms are huge.
Yeah, and I feel like this is actually a more healthy looking, like what the
Oh
person
yeah.
said before about marrying Ray Peat principles. So yeah, it's just like it's not even. I don't even think of it as like Ray Peat print. It's just, if you want to do anything that involves using your body, and this is even like if it's just like if you're obsessed with being a writer or something, and you do like 12-hour straight writing sessions to get yourself in the right place or something, like that's a stress on your body, right? Because you're like
Yeah. Yeah.
fasting, and you know what I
100%.
mean. And even if you're eating, it's not really good to sit in place and do the same thing for 12 hours. But that's you're using your body. Like if
Yeah.
that's what you have to
Well,
do.
people get obsessed with these things. And also your body gets really good at what you do or don't do.
Hmm.
So like if you're saying like if you're sitting all the fucking time and reading, you're getting really smart, but like your body's getting really good at sitting and reading.
Right.
And then once you try to do anything, and that's also a stressor because it's kind of designed. Well, I hate that word designed, because people start
Well, yeah,
talking
you're
about
not designed to
ancestral
sit still for
evolution.
that long, and you're also not
Yeah, but
designed to
let's say
be
your body
250
didn't.
pounds at like 8% body
Yeah,
fat.
100%.
So
Yeah.
but you can do that. You can do all of those things if you
Yes.
want to, but it will cost you, you know?
You'll pay a
Yeah.
price. Yeah, you'll pay a price for sure. There's a price to doing all of those things. especially if it's upper echelon of like bodybuilding, because that's
Right.
you literally have to be. I mean, I always tell you, like, I train at Gold's Gym over here. Now most of the top bodybuilders left, but Sean Roden, the guy that just died, the last
Hmm.
fucking Mr. Olympia, I would see him all the time here, and he's had like 2 or 3 heart attacks before this last one. And a lot of the guys are diabetic on purpose, kind of, though, because they get
Hmm.
insulin, and it's just like, you know, that's what it costs. And for some guys, it's worth it, and that's cool. Like, I'm fine with that. That's what you want to do. But yeah, um, you're going to pay a price.
Yeah. Somebody asked, "What's the status of Throne and Beaker?" It's pretty backburnered. Um, I guess the best way to put it is, I have a current writing project that that I'm trying to finish like this winter, and then I have a couple of short stories and other type things, and then back to that. Although I have been taking notes, I have been writing bits and pieces, and actually changing things. So what's really funny
Hmm.
is I came up with the idea to write this book like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, I was going to say, this is your book. I don't even know what you're talking
Oh
about.
yeah,
This is the name of your book?
yeah, Throne and Beaker.
Is this like, are we going to get stoned? Is this going to be like, is it going
No, like
to
Throne and Altar. Do you know that? That's
I
like,
gotcha, I gotcha.
so. But and this is it's something like, because it used to be a case for the separation of science and state.
Oh, you have told me about the idea of
Right.
this
But
book, but I just don't
now
remember that title.
the
Uh-huh.
thesis has changed.
Oh, fuck,
So
man.
instead of a case for the separation, because essentially I've decided that's impossible, and that
Hmm.
instead of thinking of science as something that could be done outside of the state, I'm taking the perspective that science, like art, all culture, economic activity, and war, is an expression of the state, or defined as like the sovereign entity in the community. So instead of saying, oh, we can have somebody else oversee or do science, then this centralized authority, whenever there's science that's allowed in a society, if it's being allowed and especially if it's being encouraged, then that is in line with the sovereign entity, because the sovereign entity doesn't allow challenges to itself. So it's kind of an inversion of the original idea. And instead, I'm just going to look at science across history, and the very idea of it itself as like an expression of sovereignty that it's like an emergent expression.
Okay.
So in other words, somebody's always going to be steering science. It's never going to be a totally
It's not going to be something.
anarchic
Okay.
project. And if it does, and if kind of like if there was a
And even if it
powerful enough
was,
militia, the government would have to bomb them. Like if there was a creative enough anarchic science, then whatever is the sovereignty closest would have to take it over, or that
yeah.
entity would then abdicate its own sovereignty, which actually happened in
It's
Constantinople when they refused to pay that Swiss guy for the cannons, and then Mehmed II did it, and then they used the cannons to blow open the walls of Constantinople
mhm.
and take the Eastern Roman Empire.
What's that really shitty Johnny Depp movie?
He doesn't make bad movies, man. What are you talking about?
Stop it, Kyle. Stop it. You guys got to
The
stop
Secret
it.
Garden or
Stop.
Secret Window?
No, that's a terrible one too, though. But
No,
no,
that's
hold
good.
on. Oh, stop it, Kyle.
I haven't seen a Johnny Depp movie in a while, but I just think
Oh
he's a
my
cool
God.
dude.
No, he's not. He's fucking insane. First of all, he's not cool at all, man. Stop it.
Oh yeah, sorry. The scientist that made the cannon. I forget his name. I have it actually like in my Word document for the book. It has his
Uh,
biography and everything. But I guess maybe he was Hungarian. I forget. I just said Austrian. I knew it was Central European somewhere. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? That's a good movie. Somebody said What's Eating
that's a great movie. That's a great movie. I didn't say all his movies sucked. I just said one shitty movie, like The Window, or what's the name of that one? Window or
Secret
whatever.
Window.
No, what's No. The movie about where he dies and his chick wants to get his whatever consciousness transplanted into the
I
computer
didn't see it.
machine, whatever, and then it becomes its own thing. It kind of reminded me of that. Anyway, it sucks, 100%.
Okay, so now that we've kind of played around with some fun topics, um, have you heard about this thing? The severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus, novel coronavirus 2019. You heard about this?
Does it?
People
It
are
has like
talking
a
about this.
huh. It 19, right? Like it has like numbers
Yeah,
after it and
yeah, yeah.
everything.
Yeah, they're calling
Huh.
it in all caps COVID 19.
So like so they're calling it like COVID?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's kind of like the street slang.
That sounds
Yeah.
weird. I'm not sure. I heard of some things going around, but I don't know. Tell us more about
Yeah, well, this has somebody just told me about this today, and this thing has been really apparently a big deal for a long time, and I figured,
it.
I figured we could talk about it, and I figured that maybe it was time that there's actually kind of a test embedded in this video, which is now if this was a channel that had like 50,000 viewers, that would be different, but in the case of this, it'll be interesting to see if there's an algorithm that's looking for words and whatever. But I thought, because I've had a lot of people ask me questions about this for the whole time, and I've
Oh
gotten in
yeah.
like arguments with people, like people just DM me on Instagram, and they're like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And okay.
Oh come on! If you're getting into arguments in your DMs, you at least post them because you can't. You got to get into arguments that
Well,
are
no,
public.
because
It's way more fun.
it's just people, It's just, and sometimes it's people I'm kind of friendly with. So real quick, the timeline as I understand it. Okay, I'm just gonna run through a quick timeline. This is my own timeline that I just researched because somebody just told me about this thing just today. This COVID thing. So
Did you hear about it on a Joe Rogan Experience or something like that? Is
yeah,
that where it's
somebody
from?
said that Joe Rogan, it's and something like Neil deGrasse Young is
Yeah,
uh,
Diamond? No. Hold on. His songs
kicked
are
off of
good though.
Spotify because he denied the climate or something. Anyway, okay. So if you remember, I had to look this up
Yes.
because I just learned about this. In the aughts, there were a few SARS outbreaks in East Asia. I think it's usually Southeast Asia, but perhaps also China. So like Vietnam, maybe Laos, Cambodia, that type of Thailand, perhaps.
Hmm.
And I believe that there were supposedly pig vectors for these things,
Hmm.
porcine vectors, and of course the famous bird vectors. Okay, so bird flu.
Yes.
Um,
Heard of that.
and that some of these were indeed coronaviruses. And
Yeah.
then,
I don't know if people get that though. Seriously, you should point that out. That those are. No, I'm
well,
serious.
they're not all. So some of them, so you can have a respiratory infection that is either, now I forget what like family the influenza is, but it's not the coronavirus family. Anyway,
Hmm.
there was a MERS outbreak, so Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, from 2012. There was one in like 2014. And for some reason, right after that, apparently the NIH started, and other funding sources started supporting a SARS coronavirus research at the, you heard of this place? The Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Yeah, I was flying back from Florida and they had this question on Delta. It said, "Name a city that changed your life forever." And I, in my mind, thought Wuhan. That was the first
Oh,
place
so
that
you've heard of
came
it?
up.
Yeah, it's in China.
But yeah, because of the fascinating historical relevances that they have
Yeah,
there.
that's where that
That's the only
clan comes
reason
from, right?
why.
They
Yes,
drink
you
that
cut
orange
out.
juice type drink.
Yeah. Cream, something like that.
So,
Making
so
money.
they have an Institute of Virology. It's being supported externally, actually, in a kind of an interesting financial arrangement where perhaps research that maybe wouldn't be allowed to be done in country A is nevertheless performed by country A and country B. Almost like extrajudicial, what's that called? Where you torture,
Amazing.
where where you do enhanced interrogation techniques in some.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard they do it on islands or some stuff like that.
So
Something like
so
that.
like that, but for
Anyway,
virus research, conducted by Eco Health Alliance, which is
is that the name of it?
little
Really? I
Orwellian.
didn't.
So eco is like the health of our ecology. Alliance.
Caring.
Yeah, it's like the Michael Jackson
Hmm.
song, but as you know, heal the world, make it a better place with all the kids holding hands.
Oh,
So they're
oh.
researching MERS, they're
I was thinking
researching
of Beat It.
SARS, and what they're really doing is they want to research things like MERS. For some reason, this is really important to the people funding this. Is the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, and they want to they want to look at vaccines for this thing. So they're taking, they're splicing things. So they're taking the so-called S protein, of one coronavirus, and or even a not even coronavirus, and like giving an a non making viral chimeras essentially. This is also known as gain of function
Hmm.
research.
Mm. This is very
Bat to
nice that you defined this
mouse,
for us.
mouse to house, nose to
Nose to
tail,
tail.
the remembering. And this was Project Grant Federal Award number R01AI110964. So don't worry about that. But
Damn. I was trying to memorize it for the last
so
second.
so this started in like 2015, maybe late 2014, and then in 2019 there
Mhm.
was this outbreak of this thing that I just heard about today, and the SARS, COVID 2019, COVID, by the parlance of our times.
Why not COVID? Because the English languages could be like EI. That always confused me when I moved here.
Yeah,
Could be COVID,
COVID. Actually, one of my
right?
Brazilian coworkers used to say that.
Hmm.
COVID.
Covid. Ei, Stein. Ei, bons. Ei,
Yeah, yeah.
Português. I love fucking Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese specifically. It's the
And
best.
you're never going to guess where this outbreak happened. I'll give you three guesses. Okay. Yeah,
Three guesses?
three.
Dude. Is it, give me a region. Give me a region so I can narrow it down. This is
The
tough.
Eastern Hemisphere.
Okay. So are you talking about Kamchatka where the caviar is from? Is that it? Is that where it
Warm.
happened? South or
Oh, now you're
north?
going to
Which way
test
we're
my
going here?
geography.
Mongolia?
Warmer.
I'm going south. Oh,
Yeah.
did it happen?
Think
Is it
that
where
you
those
have
rappers
to
are
think
from?
that you
Is
have
that
to
where it
get over a
happened?
wall of sorts, and you're almost there.
That's good. Oh my God. Wait, so Mexico.
No, there's that an actual wall that actually exists in real life.
Oh, so did it happen at where those rappers are from?
Ah, yeah.
In Wuhan.
Yeah, can you believe this? So,
Damn, dude, that's
like,
wild.
if you took the chances of a coronavirus outbreak, how many times that happens, okay, and then took all the cities in the world and maybe some factors like population density and stuff, and then you look at all the cities in the world and what are the chances that they're doing coronavirus research, okay, and then you have two different probabilities. And now, say you took those two probabilities and you multiplied them together. That would be the probability. So you're multiplying a fraction, so like a 1 over a big number, like 1 in a million. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you've got another number like 1 in 126,000 or something. You multiply those together. So now it's 1 in whatever, a billion something And so that happened, coincidentally. There was an outbreak.
Surprise, surprise. Like Nate Diaz said, huh? Surprise,
Yes,
surprise,
I am
motherfuckers.
surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, no.
And so,
Yeah,
so that
this time I
happened,
am.
and we heard about it. I remember hearing about it. There were a lot of jokes, some pretty good memes.
Right.
Or no, sorry. I
Amazing.
mean,
It
like
was the best
somebody
time.
told me just today when I learned about this that all that happened, and apparently, what happened was instead of closing the border and stuff like that. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The kind of, I guess, Trump people, conservatives, were very worried about this thing, and they were like, maybe we should, I don't know, close the borders or like not have people from their Swiss skiing vacation just come right back if they have a cough or something.
I don't know, bro. That sounds a
And
little
liberal
racist to
people
me.
were like,
So,
oh no, why are you worried about this? You're stupid. And they're like hugging a Chinese person today. It's like, hey, I hugged a Chinese person today for like love and stuff. And then the news, and then there was kind of this flip where then liberal people became so concerned immediately that they felt like what had to happen was we had to have curfews everywhere so that you couldn't spread it because, and that yada yada, like you're killing grandma. And so this thing is going around, and then the rest of the story is kind of just like news spin, if you will. So anyway, where were you when this happened?
what month was this? When the first
like early 2020.
the first apparently memes that we didn't see. Where was I? I was in LA.
Yeah, what was that like?
I was here. It was bananas, but honestly, it was the best time of my life. It was so good in LA. All right, to drop the sarcasm for a second. No, seriously, it was awesome. Well, they started closing down. First of all the toilet paper was gone. I don't know what it is with you fucking American people.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that when there's a catastrophe going on, everybody's worried about their butthole and what they're going to wipe it with. And I just did not understand it. Now, okay, to be fair, all the food was gone too. But I just could not for the life of me understand, why did everybody go for the toilet paper? Did the same thing happen in Florida?
I feel like there's a kind of sociological significance to that, because that's not normal. Normally in, like, if there's a big storm coming, you get, the classic milk, bread, eggs will run out. Yeah. I feel like we've reached a point in society that when something goes wrong, it's like, oh, we're just taking a big shit. And we need to procure unlimited toilet paper.
I mean, it was wild, dude. And it wasn't for like the first initial 2 weeks. It lasted for months in LA. It was for a while. I made a post about it on my Instagram, like of me just kneeling down in an aisle because I couldn't find toilet paper. I mean, it was no big deal for me because, like I have a shower and like, I can like figure things out.
What I'm really
disappointed
about that this did not this did not become the cultural momentum to normalize bidet culture in America.
No, never. Americans are weird about that. We can talk about that if you want. There's a whole thing. Okay, just as a side note, an anecdote, right? Yeah. Well, first of all, sauna. We talked about saunas with you a bunch of times before. Sauna culture is very normal in Russia, right? So, like, if you go to the sauna in Russia, you go to the men's changing room, or how about we say the gym? If you go to the gym, you just go to the gym. You take your shirt off. You take your pants off. You take your underwear off. You put the new stuff on, and you go work out. Like it's business as usual. What I noticed in America as soon as I moved here is that dudes go into the locker room. And of course, there's those other weird dudes, which I'll talk about in a sec. And dudes here like fucking Speedy Gonzalez, like rip their clothes off. Remember that scene from Jim Carrey movie? What's the Jim when he's God? What's the name of it? I am Bruce Almighty or whatever. Remember when he just goes, oh, and like all his clothes like rip off of him? People literally, and they like hide themselves. And this is like grown men. And they like turn away from you. I'm just saying it's one thing that I noticed, which is funny, right? Because it's like, there's definitely, what people say about, gays in Russia, right? That everybody thinks we just like kill them all and everything. So people think that Russia's like that. But I'm just saying, like, everybody's like very normal about it. But here, that's where I feel uncomfortable around people sometimes myself, because I'm like, what's this guy hiding? Like, Jesus, like he's got like a horse cock or what? Like you know what I mean? Because it's really, it's not like that in Russia and in Europe in general, I would say, honestly, because there's like even nude spas, there's all sorts of stuff, which is this stuff here. It's not part of the culture at all. And it's very funny, right? That this is the place of like, right, being very liberal and open-minded, and it's cool to be gay, be yourself, do whatever you want. But like people are the most uncomfortable
Interesting.
here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, your feed is very blurry.
God damn it.
It isn't freezing. I don't know
what to do. Okay, I'm sorry. I realized this the other day when I was doing my thing with the Strong Sisters too. Yeah, I think I gotta fix my router. It's coming. Like I have a plan. I'm so sorry, but it should come back in a second or two.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually I prefer like that the video just keep
keep
working,
me? Bro,
and it just get blurry, then it starts skipping, because that's much more annoying. Yeah. Well, yeah, America is a land of contradictions because liberalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you were talking about bidets, and in Europe it's very common to see a bidet, but I don't think so here. Especially those nice Japanese ones, right?
Yeah,
those are the best, huh?
Absolutely. Actually, somebody had a practical answer to the toilet paper question, which is it's bulky. So when it starts to run down the stock, the shelves look empty faster. So psychologically, people will think it's running out fat. Like if it's half empty, it looks more empty than like if ketchup is half empty or something. And they'll be like, oh, I better, and then.
Yeah. And another little anecdote from that time is I noticed that all the milk was gone. All the animal milk was fucking gone. And in LA, it was like really bad. There was one day where I literally went to 4 different stores to find some milk, literally. And guess the milks that I found that were still there at these stores. It was all of those plant milks and oat milk and almond milk. And for real though, it's really funny. I was like, oh, and again, LA is like the place of like, right, vegan restaurants and whatnot. Funny enough, all the vegan stuff was left behind, and all the real meat and eggs and milk was all gone.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
Wild time.
So look, basically, my perspective has been ever since I learned about this thing today is that, let's assume let's take a couple different angles here. Let's assume viruses are real, okay, and let's ask the question, what would it look like if a virus such as the common cold that was not present before were to enter the population and become a seasonal, like how did the common cold become, like what was it like when that virus first appeared? And so anyway, it's probably pretty obvious where I'm going with this. It would look like this looked. So you would have a bunch of people that get sick. It would be pretty like if there was some kind of similar illness before that went around, this one would be more contagious. It'd probably kill a bunch of people, and then eventually,
that thing that we're also always taught in school that like the Americans came to the U.S., right, and like got all the Native Americans sick with their flus and all that. Is that kind of no? But seriously, yeah. No, but like, is that kind of what happened?
Yeah,
is that kind of the same thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then like maybe the next year it would be not kill many people, and then it would just become like it would reach some type of dynamic equilibrium where every year a certain amount of people get it, and some people who have like a compromised immune system or they're really old die from it, because people die from all kinds of things. People die from slipping and falling, or and then some people would asymptomatically have it, and some people would symptomatically have it with all. And so anyway, but what ended up happening, it appears, is that instead of that perspective, right? I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. And that's like what I just explained was like mainstream biology, and also virus like theory and like evolutionary biology and all that stuff. It's just very mainstream. Like that's like before 2019 or 2020. That's that if you asked a virologist or like just a biologist in general, like, hey, what would it look like if a new virus that can spread, that's very contagious, like entered the population? What would that look like? That's kind of the story they would tell. So instead, we got two stories. One was the virus isn't real, or like, can we just go through some of those?
Yeah. Well, no, and like you said, to point out, I'm trying to see if like, oh no, is it blurry because my it's just my camera is not focusing.
It's your stupid, boring background.
I'm a fucking idiot. I'm gonna buy a different camera then. I have a Logitech. What do you have, really quick?
I like Logitech. I had a Logitech.
That's what I have.
Now I'm using like a Razer Kio. It has a ring light on it.
Apologies, everybody. Sorry, guys. Anyway, if it happens again, tell me. I was wondering. Okay, so what I was saying is like just what you said. It's very mainstream, and again, we're all taught that story, right? That like we came to America and we killed all these Native Americans with our flus and our colds, and that's what happened. And then, like you said, when this thing broke out, nobody said anything about that, like whatsoever. Do you think it's kind of a psychological thing that happened too? I mean, do you think just because we're all programmed to like, again, speaking of Brad Pitt, World War Z, we're all kind of in our minds programmed to like, oh, it's this thing that's going to just appear and everybody's going to become a zombie and we're going to and you're going to have to be Brad Pitt and you're going to climb into the airplane while it's in the air and all that kind of stuff that happened in that cool movie.
Yes. In the sense that people feel like we are in for it, that perhaps we deserve some type of culling or require some type of culling. And that also, okay, so real quick, basically what my perspective on this is that the polarization of society allowed for there to be no like cohesive perspective on this, to the point where people of one side would celebrate when somebody on the other side died from the virus. And then people on that side would celebrate when somebody died from like the vaccine or died or had really bad reaction to the vaccine,
Yeah. Like I told you so.
Yeah. So when you're in that kind of a situation, okay, it's highly unlikely that either of those two sides is handling truth, because the pressures, the socio-psychological pressures for just kind of like a zealotry taking over like factual information or truth or whatever is overwhelming. It's like, you're auditioning to be a religious soldier, and there can only be so many, and you want to get picked, and you start like making up that like God came to you last night and said you have to be the soldier or something. You know what I mean? Like this, when the audition is to be the most crazy about your thing, it has a snowball effect. So, so I remember kind of like schizophrenic ideas, like there is no virus / it's a bioweapon from China. And everything seemed to have that kind of dualistic nature to it, which is this probably doesn't exist, but also using this, they are going to like kill everybody or eventually like institute, you know, like,
So do you want to break that down? Like, okay, is it because there's a lot of people that have gotten it and got it bad.
yeah.
The ones that tend to listen like Alex Jones and whatnot, I'm just saying, they would be like, no, this is not a normal thing. It's a
Well, I don't think
bioweapon
it's a
thing.
normal thing in the sense
Okay.
that it's not a normal thing for a novel virus to enter the population. As in, it's
Mm-hmm.
something that probably only happens like every, well, this may have been impossible without internationalism, you know, globalism.
Mm-hmm.
It would
Mm-hmm.
have been,
And so, meaning it probably really was, because people are still not sure. I mean, some people still don't think it came from a lab, right? People still argue that every fucking day,
well,
nonstop,
I
on
think
Twitter especially.
if you did that mathematical exercise that I mentioned before, which is the
Hmm.
single probability of a virology institute just being somewhere. Okay. So it's like
Hmm.
a, I don't know, 1 in 50,000, 1 in something. Because there's only so many, there's a lot of cities and towns, and there's only so many virology institutes, right? So what are the chances that you have a virology institute somewhere? Well, it's some kind of small fraction. And then what are the
Hmm.
chances that you have uh, a related even viral outbreak? Well, that's also low because there's not really a lot of outbreaks like this. You know, it happens like a couple times a century or so. I'm sure it's going to be more if there's more international travel and stuff, but that's also a small fraction. You know, and that would happen in
Hmm.
any particular place. And if you multiply
Hmm.
those two small fractions together, you're really looking at like probably not 6 sigma, but like 3 or 4 maybe. Basically,
Hmm.
something that most people would be pretty comfortable saying is impossible, practically. That those two things are not, that they are unrelatedly coincidental. Of course, EcoHealth did give us uh, genetic sequences that prove that what they were working with was not what ended up being discovered, you know, in the population. And of course, they gave us all of their genetic sequences. There's no way that there's, you know, so that like throws a monkey wrench in my whole thing. But
Right.
because
So
they've
just in
been so
that sense that it's
forthcoming.
not right, right, right. But just to get back to the point that it's not probably not somewhat of a normal thing, like you said, that just entered the population out of fucking thin air, out of nowhere. That some, you know,
Well, I almost think that
what?
doesn't matter. You know, uh,
Well,
I mean,
sure. I'm just
if
saying,
we could find the
people are.
people that funded this research and get them, you know,
Yeah.
and prove
Well,
that.
no, no, that, yeah, no, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going there with this. No, no. I'm just talking about people that, because there are people are still, figuring out like, is this a normal
Mhm.
thing? Is it a real bioweapon? Blah, blah, blah. So, okay, the point is that that's what we think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm kind of talking about the one side, right? Like, for example, germs don't real. This is just the flu. Like
Hmm.
all that was happening is infections and deaths that normally would be for the flu were being reported for this. That's all it was. Um, 5G caused it. Uh, the
Oh,
va-
yeah. Oh, that was a big one. That was a big one
yeah, I
initially.
think it's
Yeah.
still. I mean, you know, we're rolling out the 5G. And then about the vaccines, you know, like they're actually poison. They're actually the virus. They
Yeah.
have some type of magnetic or nanobot technology,
Yeah. It's like a reason to just chip us all, right?
anti-fertility
Hmm.
actions,
Hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. So I know a lot of people that, in fact, wow, okay, I probably should just stop what I'm saying right now. Um, due to my, I have, ex- I work in a university and people discuss, um,
Research?
yeah, let me just say, everybody in my family. All right, forget it.
What?
I'm not going to reveal
Dialogue.
my vaccination status on YouTube.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Okay. But you can say you know a lot of people that are or aren't, right, or had it, not had it,
yeah. I've seen all
right?
combinations.
Same here. Same
And
here.
in fact, I had a positive PCR test for this COVID thing
Hmm.
last year. No,
Hmm.
2 years ago now. August.
Which is another thing we could potentially talk about, or we should.
July, sorry, July of 2020.
Yes.
And
Yes.
here's why I think that I actually had a virus that is of this that I had this virus. It's that I did lose my taste, my sense of taste. And that's never happened to me before. And I don't mean because actually I wasn't congested. I don't mean in the sense like if your nasal passages are congested and you can't smell very much and you lose quite a bit of your ability to taste. Maybe half or something. I don't know. It's probably different depending on the flavor and whatnot. I'm talking near 100%, not
Just
no
flat out.
congestion.
Yeah, I've never had that in my life either.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it just felt like a flu. That was just the flu, bro. And I did get a secondary like bronchitis afterwards, which I think I have now. I think I got like
You put this guy. You need a hug. I need to fly over to Florida. And
I got
give
a
you
cold in New Jersey over which was probably cold vid.
Oh well, yeah, dude. That fucking Jersey air will murder you.
I got an Oma cold. And no, I felt fine though. I actually the cold, like the temperature didn't bother me, and I was feeling fine. I'll tell you what, I was really down bad though the first couple of days. I went to a Planet Fitness and did leg day at a Planet Fitness.
Did anybody call the clunk? Is it clunk
Lunk
alarm?
alarm.
What the fuck?
No, I was
Thing?
very respectful,
Lunk?
but it's trying to do like a leg day in a Planet Fitness is like one of those things where it's like that's not the tool for the job.
It's like trying to do an arm day at like a ballet studio or something. Yeah, it's just like not gonna happen.
Yeah. And so, all right. So yeah.
So you've had some
So did you ever
experience and you've
did you ever
had
get
a
COVID?
test.
I mean, you got nothing.
I, I don't know, man. I just like refuse to like, I don't know. I try to keep it out of my window.
Somebody said that they
You know
got
what
it.
I
It
mean?
was rough. They did the monoclonal antibody IV treatment. Man, how did you get that? Did you say that you were
Wow,
American
because
Indian?
yeah, because literally they're not
The
getting that
hospital made
out to
$1,000.
anyone
Oh, I
now.
do have something to say about the money. So I was looking at my insurance stuff because I was I don't know I was like checking on an insurance claim or something, and if you have insurance and you go on the website, it'll list like if you went to the doctor recently, it'll say what they got
Hmm.
billed, what they paid, what they negotiated, and what you're
Yeah, yeah,
blah
yeah.
blah blah blah. So I saw that because I got when I got sick, I took a PCR test. This is back in 2020. Took a PCR test. It was
Hmm.
negative, but I was still sick, and so I was like, it's weird.
PCR, just to point out, the one in the nose, the
The
whole thing, the
OG.
one
Yeah.
deep,
Deep.
the
Yeah.
deep one.
I was
Oh,
so freaked
fuck.
out by that. But after I had
Yeah,
it, it
dude.
was like, it wasn't that bad. And it was actually kind of funny because then I got a second one.
You got a nice
Well,
nurse, seriously, because I've heard some horror stories, literally, of people being sore in their fucking eyebrow inside of their eye. You know what I'm saying? Like in
oh, come
here after
on. Oh,
having.
come on.
Well, it could be a
Yeah.
pussy. It could be just pussy. No, but it doesn't feel nice. But you see, there's some videos of people just like roughing it up
Yeah, yeah,
there,
yeah.
and you're like,
Well, I had
Jesus,
them done at the university, so they had some people there. So yeah, so I had
friendly.
that. It was negative, and I was really freaked out about it because I'd never had anything shoved all the way to the top of my nasal passage like that. And then I wasn't freaked out about it, and then I had a second one, and that one actually hurt way more. So it was like a weird thing where I wasn't ready for that.
Ah.
Anyway, the second one came
Hmm.
back positive, and then I had a third one. So then I looked on my insurance for something else. I wasn't even looking this up, and I just saw each one of those tests. Okay, the PCR test was billed at like $4,500, almost $5,000, and the swab was a
Yeah.
separate bill of I think just under 200. So they got nearly almost 15,000, somewhere between 14 and $15,000, probably for those three tests. So
Hmm.
right off the bat, to me, if you're looking for a conspiracy or some type of conspiratorial activity, I feel like you don't really have to like have nanobots. You know, you don't have to have like
Yeah.
yeah.
And what's his name? Robert Malone talked about that and talks about that still. You know that other doctor, the gray-haired one, looks like Santa, kind of friendly-looking guy. Yeah, he's brought that up a bunch. How much money they can make off of those, just off
Yeah,
of
it
the
was a
tests,
bonanza.
right?
Oh,
Doing
your
the
camera's
testing
bugging again.
all the time. I'm so sorry about that. I'll
Is there
fix
no way
this.
you can sit
Okay, I'll get
closer,
it.
or can you adjust it?
It's not about me sitting closer because I've done it when it was closer and it was doing the same thing and I just didn't realize it. I think it's maybe because I'm not moving or
Is the
something.
part that focuses on
Let me do
you
this thing.
dirty?
Maybe. Let me do this.
Get that
So sorry,
ASMR
guys.
personal attention going. Yeah. Can you like
Yes.
tap it and
Yes.
whisper?
Hey, we're gonna talk about COVID.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Do you have the Russian? You ever see the Russian lady? There's this one Russian lady. She's like millions of followers because she's like one of the OG. She's been there. She's been doing that like, hey, good morning.
Is it
she does, like she
Pelagia?
speaks in Russian.
PEL.
I don't know her
Oh,
name, but there's like one.
there's one girl
huge
that's
one. Maybe
half
there's
Russian,
more
half
now,
German
right?
that I like somebody shared with like 3 years ago, and I don't like watch her videos because they got kind of weird. But she's like,
Dude, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. These ASMR, because it used to be when I used to like kind of put them on and just check them out. They used to be just like maybe like them scratching the microphone or talking to it, and now it's just like watch me eat a banana or no, eat a watermelon and spit out the seeds.
well, of course
And it's like,
everything's
what
gonna,
the?
Okay, somebody.
Okay,
So
so
yeah,
back.
so somebody said it
Uh-huh.
feels like a conspiracy because people got kicked out of university. That's some people did and lost their jobs. Yeah, especially in some places because of vax mandates, and in some places there's an unvaxxed act. Yeah. So I'm going to forward a theory here, which is the stabilization of what somebody, maybe not myself, but somebody might call totalitarian measures in this episode that we've lived through, tyrannical even. That regime is stabilized by the opposition being unfocused and essentially insane and retarded. So the best thing you could do, like if you want to do something nefarious, perhaps even good, and you know that there's a faction that will either in an organized fashion or a disorganized fashion, like a natural emergent faction that will just oppose you for some type of inborn reason. Actually, the worst thing you can do is enter them in direct, or the thing that will give them the best chance to effectively oppose you is for you to directly engage them so that your cards are on the table and their cards are on the table. Okay. The best thing that you can do if you're talking about game theory, Machiavellian game theory,
I like the accent.
is to seed aspects of your opposition with like poison pills, basically, that they will take up because they are in a coding that looks, like something that they want to have. So in other words, if you wanted to like blow up a building and collect double insurance money on it, you would say there was never any planes, or so. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but the point is, if there's something going on and you have an opposition, so people aren't taught this, that most people that are doing bad things are they're going to infiltrate, like every government has like spies in other governments, and you should be suspicious, and not just suspicious of anyway, what I'm getting at is there's no way to have like a sane conversation when you're following thought leaders that are leapfrogging, like, this doesn't exist, it's a bioweapon, it's 5G, it's this, and they one way to check if the people that you're that are saying these types of things are sincere is if they say something and then they just go on to saying something else and they never go back to that thing. They never go back and say, "Oh, that was wrong, and here's why."
Like, my bad. Yeah. They just kind of step over it. Yeah, sort of like fucking carbohydrates and animal-based diet.
Yeah,
right?
like if you're just like, "Oh, we're doing honey now," and
well, no, it's like, it's 5G. Oh, no, wait, it's a bioweapon. Hold on, what about the 5 fucking G? Yeah, because it kind of quieted. I mean, from what it seems like on my end, it seems like the 5G kind of quieted down a little bit. Although, except for the recent thing where they stopped some of the flights. Right from you heard that where they canceled some flights because it was fucking with the airports or airlines.
In Japan,
I don't.
They are.
Was it Japan? I thought it was here too.
Well, in Japan, they're actually like the government is officially researching whether 5G will interfere with airplane comms.
Oh, that's big. Well, so something of that sort happened here. That's the only thing I've heard recently. But I'm saying as far as the this COVID thing, kind of people quieted down on that. I feel like.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So I've seen things. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
I've seen things.
And I was doing Roy Batty. I wasn't doing ASMR.
I know, but I took it there, bro.
So like I remember in 2011 or 2012, there was a Rapture prediction. Do you remember that? Were you here?
Mm-hmm.
Were you in the States then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was.
I actually had a Rapture party. Or I think it was 2010. 20, it was something like that. It was like 2010.
Damn, dude. Wish I knew you back then. We would have partied hard.
Yeah,
that one. Damn,
and
dude.
I even remember looking up at some point in the night what was happening in Australia because I was like, well, it's going to start there, right? And anyway, there's been like a lot of Rapture predictions, and sometimes the same people they'll be like, oh, I decoded this thing in the Bible, and the rapture is going to happen, like, and they have a date, doesn't happen, and then they've got a next one. Maybe they give some type of like, oh, I did the maths wrong, but
yeah, or the 5G effect that changed the fucking the alignment of the Earth, so it's like different now,
Yeah. So anyway, the point is, there's a certain kind of like when you have experience in the world, you get a taste for concepts. There's a texture and a taste to them, and that has a kind of it's just not satisfying, and it doesn't really seem like those people are respecting your intelligence or trying to, I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but there's so many things in human social life that are hard to put into words. Like if you're dating a woman and she's upset with you and she wants to kind of make you have a crappy day, like you live together, there's so many things that she can do that you can't actually point out. Like it's just vibes, happens. Right? Like people can just put out weird vibes. It makes you feel, you're like,
just things. Yeah. What's happening. Yeah.
And so, online, there's just these vibes, they're at a certain frequency, and a certain generation of frequency. And, so how I feel about it is, these people ought to be, okay. So that's the one side. Okay, is that people that are just kind of into, we could call them like the doom enjoyers.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Although on the other side, there's doom enjoyers too, because there's people that think that COVID's going to kill everybody if this, that, and the other thing aren't done.
Don't do it.
And anyway, the point is both of these stabilize each other. So what I'm trying to say is, if it wasn't for like say the Alex Jones genre of like COVID content, then I actually don't think liberals would have been the way that they were. I don't think that they would be.
Yeah, they push each other. Yeah, you gotta have that push
like
of
an anti-vaxxer dying. I don't think that they would actually have been.
Yeah.
Now some of them would, but it wouldn't have been the same phenomenon. Likewise, if so now let's turn to the official narrative. Okay, the one thing that was pretty amazing in this whole thing, which you actually can't appreciate if you don't think that the virus is real, or if you don't think any of this stuff is real and you just think it's like the mark of the beast or like something like that, you actually can't appreciate what happened, which is that institutions like the CDC officially abdicated scientific, objective, like in so many instances. And like, people will say, oh, Dr. Fauci said that masks don't do anything. And then he said we all have to wear masks. It's hard to appreciate that when you're also thinking a bunch of other extreme things. It makes that seem not that important. Or statements people have made, some of the same people that are involved in the current vaccination campaign, that, for example, you can't vaccinate against a coronavirus. You can't effectively vaccinate against a coronavirus that can mutate at like X rate, however they measure that. I don't know. Which I think is true. And I'd actually like to appreciate that, and appreciate how somehow both sides of this argument have completely abdicated any kind of scientific neutrality for this like massive gotcha that will never happen. Like, there will never be a time when people that hate anti-vaxxers will ever say, you know what, you were right. And there will never be a time when an anti-vaxxer type person will ever say that somebody who, is like a vaccine enjoyer or something is right. That will never happen. It's kind of like the rapture.
So in that sense.
And I was thinking about this. Do you remember the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movies?
Yeah. Also, shit.
Go ahead. You
have bad taste, bro. I love
you.
To death.
Hate everything.
No, by the way, I love Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Everybody knows that's a classic.
Everybody knows Leo loves that.
And I love Snatch.
Yeah.
But then he just could never do it again. And he would try to he has his style. And you can tell it's his movie. But it just never
Well, I thought that
out,
actually he...
Don't say the latest one with Colin Farrell was good. Because he was trying to do that thing again.
Wait, is that The Gentleman?
Yeah,
no. Oh, all right. Well, then you're just wrong.
No, my friend.
That is a very...
Ask any random
the politics
person,
of that movie are good and intriguing.
Sure, but I'm talking about the movie as overall.
Okay, all right.
I'm just saying,
I'm not really actually a Guy Ritchie. I don't really care. I do like. I kind of like Robert Downey Jr. and I specifically like him. Everybody, people will say, "Oh, he was born to play Iron Man." No.
I just want to point out that I trained his I don't know, some sort of assistant. It wasn't like his personal, but like one of his like assistants. Anyway, he's a crazy person, but he's really cool. He's really interesting.
Yeah, I think that he was sort of born to be that Sherlock, like with the kind of Robert Downey style. He plays kind of the same character where he's like aloof.
Yeah, but see, bro, you can't deny that Iron Man is will be his.
That's what he remembered for, because that's what like the end of.
Not because it's a great movie.
It's
just
remembered for the Marvel movies. Like, it's not shit.
Well, come on, you're taking it personally. No, that's his role. But Sherlock was good. As his character was awesome. I like all the scenes of him like calculating how to punch people in the face, like, and talking about it out loud. It's great, but the movie sucks. That's all.
All right, okay. All right, we can agree to disagree. I don't think that they're not like hot cinema. They're not Kino cinema or anything. I just think that they're good movies. They're fun to watch, and I find them rewatchable. But anyway.
Mm-hmm. So you brought that up. Sorry.
So if you remember the plot of the first one, right? That Lord something, and he fakes his death, and he's kind of like an Aleister Crowley type character with like dark magic, and he's like the leader of this dark magic cult, and he makes these predictions about how he's going to kill people, like he's going to kill his dad, and he's going to kill all the people in Parliament, and he's going to take power in England, and that's like his goal. And he does all these things, and they're pretty outlandish, but they're like just within the realm of possibility. You know how movies are. Like, he takes a drug, he has he like bribes the hangman so that when he gets hanged, it doesn't actually break his neck. Like, there's a thing for it to catch, like a metal thing. And he takes a drug that makes him
fall asleep
like,
instead
and
of whatever
his
die
heart
and all that
basically
shit.
beat like 1 time a minute or something.
Yeah.
And he has somebody, put plaster on the tomb so he can get out of there, and that just the whole thing, and it's all explained in the end, but they kind of maintain this ambiguity, like, oh, is there actually magic? Like, is this guy actually magic? And everybody thinks it's magic except for Sherlock Holmes, and in the end he explains everything and defeats the villain. Okay, so so there's all these. So when something happens, like the COVID thing, there's something actually happening. Okay. And if you're following the bouncing ball of people like doing magic tricks in front of your face and saying that there's something supernatural happening, and it's like really sexy because it's supernatural, everybody kind of wants somebody to have supernatural powers and for something crazy to happen, and nobody actually wants to do the work of being Sherlock Holmes. Nobody wants to be the sober guy when everybody else is drunk on mystique and magic, that coldly looks at things and like disenchants themselves and disenchants the world, actually, because an enchanted world is just a better world. However, the masses in this or that situation will tend to be enchanted. And so what I'm saying is that these things are always going to happen, like the QAnon phenomenon. The Q phenomenon. And this thing, they're closely related, and it's that people want an enchanted world, and specifically they don't want to do like cold, because it does actually feel kind of cold and dark to just be like say somebody's really hopped up on Tom Hanks is about to get arrested because he's like in the Illuminati or something. That I've seen people have told me when the Biden and Trump campaigns and elections, that Biden was about to be arrested any day now and all this stuff. And I could feel,
and the same vice versa, by the way, to Trump, right?
Yeah, but it's funny though, is the flavor's different. There's a right wing flavor because Russiagate and Trump and his family, all these liberals, they were like, ooh, they could just taste it.
Yeah, I experienced that firsthand. By the way,
they could taste all of the Trumps being hauled off to prison right after Biden's sworn in.
And his boy Putin is
yeah. So
it's really
and from
silly.
From talking to these people and listening to these people and all the rest of it, I can kind of pick up on the emotional, it's a what's that word when something's really good? Anyway, ecstasy.
What's that word when something's really good?
It's like an emotional ecstasy that they're anticipating, and they can't. And it clouds their mind.
Can't stop. They're addicted to it.
So people,
but it's also so good that they can't
people
stop.
Don't
they can't
want for something to just be a virus that's doing what you would predict from classical virology and biology. People don't want that. Nobody wants that. In fact, not even, and this is what I'm not going to say surprised me, because as I said earlier in this, I am writing a book about the failures of institutional science that we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
But even the mainstream scientists didn't want this, because if they took a cold look at what was going on, then they could never have justified the response, because it was just, first of all, somebody who understands normal virology and evolutionary biology would have thought there was basically no chance to, once it had reached pandemic levels, that's it. Everybody's eventually going to be exposed to it, and people that are susceptible to the strain that they end up.
So basically, there's really nothing that could have really been done, except or nothing.
There's kind of two things that could have been done.
Home,
one is the Chinese thing, where you actually seriously contact trace people and weld them in their apartments. Although even then, I mean, if you just miss one person and it has a replication number of like 3 or 4 or whatever it is, then you just start all over again as soon as you stop doing that. Or the aggressive herd immunity, which, by the way, that's another thing with the abdication of science in the institutions. They actually stigmatized, and I think herd immunity was something that you could get like censored or banned on places like Twitter and on this platform that we're, I'm assuming, still broadcasting on. But herd immunity is not, I mean, it was literally put in the category of like an Alex Jones phrase. And it's
natural immunity was the one that was banned
natural
right
immunity,
away from
yes.
I'm just saying.
There has never been a study that has shown that these vaccines were even as good as natural immunity, let alone better, and they were being aggressively interpreted. I mean, I've seen, you know, working in labs and stuff, like everybody always wants to present their data the best way possible. So unless you're like basically autistically honest, like where you can't exaggerate it, like you just functionally can't, there's always going to be, you know, like somebody will have like a Western, like showing their protein, and they'll just pick the nicest picture, and they'll say, this is a typical picture. This is coming. It's like they'll say typical picture of purification of, and they just pick one that looks nice.
Like that's the best
one.
And
that's who cares, right? And there's a spectrum, right, between like that and then the stuff that was happening in this situation. And yeah, so these phrases being kind of outlawed, like socially outlawed, and then again, yeah, like any kind of okay, so one way that you could describe the conspiracy theory side that I'm describing is that their ideas are not presented as something that's falsifiable, nor do they look to falsify them, nor when they perhaps go to a different idea do they say that their previous idea was falsified. So in other words, it's not scientific. And furthermore, actually the institutional side has done the same thing. Like, I don't think that if I went to my university and talked to somebody that worked there that was very of the political orientation that you love, like the vaccine for COVID, I don't think that they, I wonder whether they could emotionally handle the question, is the proposition that these vaccines are effective and safe falsifiable? I don't think that they could handle that question, because they would immediately understand that that the answer must be yes for it to be a scientific proposition, but because of their political proposition about this episode, it must be no. And so the answer must be, I'm mad at you for asking.
Yeah, or you know, something. Calling you, you're right. Which is true. People really do that. People really genuinely do that. Yeah, if you know.
Yeah, seriously. I was arguing with. I'm trying not to argue online anymore because, you know, I love everybody.
At least post it publicly, like I said. That's all. Let us enjoy the fun with you, man.
Yeah, well, it's not really that much fun, but what's funny is I'll be arguing about something with somebody and I'll feel like, you know what, this person, they really do make some good points. I still think that my side is right, but, you know, this is not ridiculous what they're saying. And then something will come up, like a lot of times for some reason it'll come up that I don't believe like the mainstream position that a low density lipoprotein, you know, LDL, causes heart disease or what it causes atherosclerosis as such, or and then that I'm kind of agnostic on, you know, this whole like vaccination project for a fast, quick mutating coronavirus.
Yeah, but you're like stapled. You're like labeled right away. It's like on your forehead, denier, or like
But what happens is the way that these people react that I'm talking about, it really weakens what they were saying before. It's almost like, it's like if there's like an MMA fight and the two guys are on the feet and the one guy's like, oh man, I don't know if I can win because this guy's striking is really good. And then they get on the ground and he has like no jujitsu. And it's just like, oh, this guy like an amateur? Like, is this a mistake? And he just like has like a few striking techniques, and actually he's not even supposed to be in the cage with me. Like, what's his record? Like 0-0. It's like that. It's like somebody can have basically when they get emotionally activated, they will start to appear like somebody who is not intelligent, even if they can appear intelligent on another topic for which they're not emotionally activated about. And you got to watch out for that, because that can happen to you at a number of different places. So there's a few questions here. I want to let's just fire off some of these. And these are kind of conversational. So somebody says, what is more coercive, mandates for vaccination or being forced to work in an unsafe environment? Well, so the phrase being in America,
there's a lot of
nobody's actually forced to work anywhere.
That's what thing that came to my mind.
I understand circumstances will practically force, if you have a family and such, and you don't have like another job sitting for you, and I don't know, there's not unemployment, whatever. There are all kinds of unsafe environments. I work in something that could be called an unsafe environment. I mean, I've worked with ethidium bromide, which is an extremely powerful teratogen and carcinogen. I've worked with, I worked in a chemistry lab with all kinds of toxic chemicals, stuff.
You literally working with shit that can kill you.
Oh yeah, and not just kill you. I mean, that's kind of like
kill you bad.
Yeah, it could kill you bad, but that's kind of the stuff that you can pick up on right away. But stuff that like 20 years from now, it's like, oh shit, I've got prostate cancer.
Oh, like because you had exposure to this, you can get cancer.
Which is that kind of is more psychologically terrifying.
Which is almost that's a little bit terrifying. Yeah.
And people often comment on how shockingly dangerous driving on American highways is.
Ooh. Yeah,
which is, I'm assuming, much more dangerous. In fact, that video you sent me with that guy that I said looked like the Mexican laughing meme guy, but he just had teeth.
Yeah.
He said he did a statistical test that what's more dangerous, going to a store and possibly getting, COVID, or the drive to the store, like statistically, and like getting in a deadly car accident, and that it was more dangerous. The deadly car accident was more dangerous.
Exactly.
So
there's. It's only because we're paying attention to a certain thing now that we're really all aware of. I don't know if you heard of this thing called COVID, So
yeah.
So we're all.
By the way, I do believe that the news can turn on or off this. So you can. Here's another thing. You can think like you don't have to adopt every belief or position in a basket presented to you. So like you can think that the news is exaggerating this virus and how deadly it is, and that, for example, if they had just reported a normal flu season or a normal cold season this way, people would be more freaked out because they just decide not. The same way with like if they reported, say, for example, murders from one race the same way they report them from another race, you would get a very different perspective about the relative violence levels in America. And so, they can turn these things on and off, but that doesn't mean things aren't happening. Like, for example, when a murder is front page news and all over the television for months and months, some people will say, oh, well, that didn't even happen. Like that guy, that guy never even existed. He was an FBI agent or something. See, you don't have to,
CIA.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You can do that if you have like evidence for that, which evidence on the internet is kind of just like, I can keep talking for longer than you can.
Right.
So you don't have to do that. You can actually, like my position, my official position on how people in power run things is that they, or let's just say how I would do it. Let's just forget, because I actually think, things are pretty groovy. Everything's fine. And, but what I would do is I would have a system of like narrative spin that I could turn on and off, and I would pay attention to something that happens. And then when there's something that I could use as propaganda for what I want, I would amplify that times a million, and I would use a network to amplify that. and I would essentially make it a different event through the amplification. But I would not create the event, because that would actually be a little stochastically dangerous. Like, let's say, like you wanted to amplify police violence, okay? It's much better to wait, because it's a big country. There's like 400 million people. The police are going to kill somebody, and they're probably going to kill somebody in questionable, situation. So just wait for that to happen. Wait for the story to be what you want, and then amplify it, rather than taking the risk of being caught doing a fake one, like, for example, Jussie Smollett, right? So he did the other way. He did the way that most conspiracy theorists think conspiracies happen, which is people get in a room, they come up with an idea to do something fake or to do something nefarious, and then do it.
I remember that.
And
that was a funny one.
But you can really fall on your face with that. Whereas if you just,
as per happened, right? And then we got your point.
So anyway, I think vaccine mandates are. Look, people are forced to work. What's really okay? I'll say one more thing. I've noticed that people that, for example, might have been like really religiously COVID enjoyers last year, they're showing up to my place of work where I'm unsafe with an obvious cough. Okay. And they're wearing their cloth mask, and they're like walking around, and because they're vaccinated, they must not be sick. Yeah. In fact, I'm probably hallucinating. But so the point is, if that's on, so the same, these people, this is just convenience. Like, people are tired of, when people get tired of something enough, even if they pretend, it's the same thing with like, when the Catholic Church started selling indulgences for sins, like it got to the point where it's like, yeah, so you can never do this. And then it became like a carbon, trade up. What's a carbon?
I don't know.
Credits, carbon credits. You
can kind of do it.
Yeah, it's like they have.
Yeah. You can it's like, it's okay.
Well, if you go through this if you go through this process, because we know that you're a true believer, so like
you'll be okay. Like if you don't do that, but like just a little bit is all right.
If somebody else did this and didn't believe that you're not supposed to do it and didn't pay us money,
they're fucking going straight to hell.
Cap and trade, yeah. So anyway, it's all in the framing. Like, if there was like the space alien epidemiology tool, which I think is one of the best thinking tools that you can have. Which, if anybody doesn't know, it's like the first video, or one of the like second or third on this channel. And it's about a specific topic, but you can apply that method to anything. So just imagine that you could like delete from your brain all the context of the world, the history and that you're a human being, but you could still like use TV and stuff. And let's say you had really a lot of objective data about relative dangers, like risks of things, like slipping on the ice, getting in a car accident, getting this type of disease, getting that type of disease, being assaulted in this part of the country, and blah, 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 right? Being eaten by an animal in the woods. Do you think that objective risk assessment of what's actually dangerous would line up with what most people think is dangerous, or like what they're afraid of?
No. Of course not.
Is that a more scientific risk assessment? Of course it is. Yes. Yeah. So to even bring up that, like, the framework of that is just so wacky, because it's like, oh, this is unsafe. Working on a construction site is unsafe. Why should you be forced to, what's unsafe? The deadliest catch, like crab farming.
Yes.
Fishing, whatever.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I know what you're saying. That's the way people look at it.
Let's see. Somebody said those Sherlock movies were so bad. Lock, Stock was great. But somebody else said best Sherlocks. So we've got a little bit of a 50-50 here.
Best? What do you mean best Sherlocks? Is there other Sherlocks?
Yeah, there's English. There's an English couple of. There's old shows from like the 80s or something.
What do you mean by English? Oh, I'm sure
like
they're
England.
terrible. They're shows from the 80s.
And then there's the Benedict Cumberbatch back.
Oh God, the guy that can't say penguin. You ever seen that video? He just says penguin or something like that. He can't say
That sounds
penguin.
cool.
He
He's got a
does.
cool voice.
He narrated. Yeah, he does. But his latest movie on Netflix is fucking terrible too, and it's like getting like the best reviews as usual. You know, typical Hollywood shit.
The
Anyway,
dichotomy at play with COVID might be like the institution building progressives at odds with the individualist dissemblers of institutions. Uh, yeah.
dissemblers.
What I'm
Yeah,
taking
okay.
from that. So one thing that I think, so obviously, if there's a lot of people that got like little bits of like fiefdom power in this thing, like the person that tells you to put on a mask and really like enjoys it.
Well, bro.
And
Yeah.
those kinds of people, you're always going to find some of those people. They probably have some type of psychopathy, like if they
Mhm.
really truly enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's not about the mask. They would do that with
Right.
whatever the
Like they
fuck
would
it
be like the
is. Yeah.
person that like really gets off on like telling that their neighbor might be visiting the West, like in the Soviet Union. Like, oh, they're they're
Mhm.
talking to their niece.
Yeah, but it could be even small things. If it's something as small as about the mask, the people, I mean, if people have time to tell you to fucking put on your mask correctly, like, can you imagine the fucking distances that they would go to tell you some other
Well, the thing
shit? I
is
mean, it's
though,
just
if it's actually effective and the virus is actually
Mhm.
really dangerous, then it makes sense. But the thing is, we can't have that discussion because
No.
some people think it's impossible for the mask to somehow not be effective. And some people think it's impossible for a mask to be effective. And if you have
Yeah,
those
yeah,
two sides, then you can never actually have the conversation. All you have is people yelling at each other.
yeah.
Um,
Same thing, same situation.
let's see. I have been following Vincent Racaniello of This Week in Virology. Other sources throughout this pandemic have flamed out hard. I'm not sure what that means.
Hmm.
They're trying to make the world a safe space, and it's blowing up in their faces. Uh, I don't think so. They're trying to make the world safe for some people and less safe for other people. Somebody asked what denomination I am. I am not any denomination. I was born and raised in the Methodist Church, but I am not currently a member.
Wow. Did you go to like concerts where they like sing and stuff? It's one of the funniest things in America
That's
ever.
that's Baptist.
That's
Yeah.
Baptist. So they didn't do those concerts at your church or
I
whatever?
No, not really. There was a choir, but they just sang.
Ah, okay, so just
Yeah,
regular
yeah.
shit. Okay. Because those are so funny.
Yeah, I was never a big fan of the church that I was a part of. Um,
Mm.
but
No, hey, whatever. I'm just saying they're just fun. It's just like it's not in Russia. A church is like a place where you go to like suffer and stand for 4 hours. You know what I'm
see,
saying?
that's what I'm
Because
talking
Russian
about.
masses. Yeah, yeah. But that's what Russian mass is all about. There's no seats unless if you're super old, you know. But you're going and you're standing. I mean, the nicer Americanized, like they do have Orthodox churches here. They'll have, but like old school Russian churches, you just go inside and you fucking stand, and it's like 3 hours long, and you
Do they have
suffer,
caviar?
and you right
Right
after.
after.
Hey, that's another Russian thing that you should try, by the way. You should absolutely. It's coming up too. You should go find an Orthodox church around your area. You don't have to go to the mass, but you probably should, and go see the Easter mass, because at the end you get a nice little treat. Italians call it Pasqua. We call it Pascha. You ever see these little baked goods? No, you
It
know what I'm talking
stands
about?
upright, or
Yeah. It's like a people. It's like this bread thing with raisins and just sweet little breads and all sorts of stuff that we cook in Russia, and we paint our eggs and
uh,
you battle with the eggs. That's like Italians do that shit too. Greeks do that. Russians do that. So, which is funny because Italians are like Catholic mostly, but they do some of that stuff. I don't know how that intertwined historically or whatever, but
mm.
it's fun. I'm just saying, Russian Easter
I wish that you were
Orthodox.
still here so that you could like get me in to some type of like Russian Orthodox community or something. Like, God, I feel like I need
Let's
a
do it.
an interpreter.
We'll find one first, and then we'll get you in. I'll fly over and we'll get you in. I might just fuck it. I might just move over there soon, dude.
Somebody
I don't know.
asked
I liked
you,
it.
how do you enjoy Florida?
I loved it. So I know some people hate it, but
I don't hate it, by the way.
I loved it.
I'm
Come on, be
ambivalent.
honest. What do you?
I can be
But that's not an
unhappy
opinion.
anywhere.
Come on.
Okay.
Right. But are you unhappy because of Florida or because you just want to move to a
No,
different place?
I could be here. I could be anywhere. The main angst of my current situation is I know I'm not going to be here long term. So it's just kind of like everything's just.
Yeah, and everything you're just like, fuck this stupid stove in Florida. You know, you're just saying everything is because of Florida. Right. I get it. But I loved it. I love it. I mean, and I also like hot weather, so obviously. So yeah, I can see myself moving there, so we'll see what's going to happen. I'm trying to figure out life as it goes.
Somebody
also
asked if I'm still vegan / nofap. No.
Just no fap.
Kyria Layson. Somebody said Kyria Layson, Leo. Kyria, is that the baked product? What? I'm sorry.
No, it's called Pascha.
Oh wait, is that Ukrainian? Kiria space Layson.
Is there an I like an American I?
Yeah.
Is it written in English
It's in English letters.
Or is it written in Cyrillic? Well, I don't know. I can look it up in a second. I'm so sorry. So I'm not sure what they're trying to say.
How do Pete Bros deal with Orthodox fasting? I don't think there are any Pete Bros that are Orthodox.
I haven't done fucking fasting in a long time, so I'm not sure. Yeah.
Oh, God have mercy. Sorry.
What's that?
That it's Greek. I'm not Greek at all. Somebody asked how Greek am I?
Me neither.
My last name
just the last
somehow my last name is Greek. I did 23andMe and Ancestry. Actually, I had an idea to make a video to do a stream like.
But where's your dad's dad from? America?
Yeah, I think so. So on 23andMe, I have 0 Greek. On Ancestry, it says 3% Aegean Islands.
That's a big fucking difference, though. That's funny, right?
That's not a big difference because they give you a range of like 8%, so it could be like -4%.
But like that, well, but you know, people take that shit really seriously.
No, I take it seriously, and I actually have calibrated it a little bit. So I think the Ancestry is actually more accurate. I think their data set's better, and here's how I know. Because I know for a fact I'm exactly 12.5% Swedish. Because
What do you mean exactly 12.5% Swedish? You sound like those guys that say I'm Irish because I like to drink Irish car bombs on St. Patty's
because
Day.
I know the relative, because I had an ancestor come from Sweden, have my grandfather with a woman, so my grandfather was 50%, and then my mother was 25%.
On your mom's side or on your dad's side?
And then I'm
so the Greek
half of 25, which is 12.5. So anyway.
So no Greeks in your mom's side, but probably your dad somewhere could possibly.
Oh yeah, it's from my dad's side. I'm just saying that I think, I don't know. It's whatever. But anyway, the point is, so I know that what the true percentage is of that one ethnicity, okay? Because it's pure. It's like that guy he came over and he was like a peasant, you know what I mean? Like he wasn't like mixed with anything else. He was like Swedish from Sweden, from a Swedish family, came over here and then reproduced with
pure
people
blood
that were not Swedish. So it was like a pure just descent, a pure division each time, right? And what I got on Ancestry was like 8%. So they were like about 50% off. A little bit like 55% off. And 23andMe gave like 4%. So they were way.
So 23andMe is the worst?
It appears to be less of a reliable data set than the Ancestry data set in my case. I really haven't talked to anybody else about that. There's probably not a lot of people that do both of them because they cost like $150 each.
Yeah, I've only done 23andMe, but I wonder. But I don't really care.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's just how it's supposed to be pronounced. Ha ha ha. It's an Orthodox thing they say in church. Yep. Sorry. I don't know anything about Orthodox except all the Ortho bro stuff online that I've been in.
It's really interesting. That's an interesting thing. It wasn't a thing on the internet 10 years ago, though. Like or the
No,
Orthodox
it
stuff.
started
Now I'm
about
seeing so
5
many
years
people that are
ago.
like, I'm
Yeah.
Orthodox. It's like, what the fuck?
Well,
You're
there was a
Orthodox since
mass
when?
conversion to Catholicism right before Trump, and then into Trump, and then after that there was a conversion. Like there's some people like this guy, this writer, this conservative writer Rod Dreher, Dreher, and he was like some kind of Southern Protestant, like he's from like New Orleans, and he converted to Catholicism, then converted to one of the Orthodox churches, and it's like he's just following the memes online of like what's the most
Pretty much.
based church this week.
Yeah, pretty much.
Who are more valuable for the future, the artists or the scientists, or do you repeat
Ooh.
yourself?
Well, you really need a balance of both, That's what he would say. Yeah,
Somebody said
but
my ancestor may have come from Sweden, but Swedes have mixed. Yeah, that's true. But I have decent reason to believe that that particular family. I mean, you never know. But if somebody's been like there hasn't been mixing and there hasn't been moving, and these people have been in a small community back, in the 1800s and 1700s and so on. I think it's reasonable to assume that that person is about as, pure. It's funny though, because I do have German ancestry on my mom's side, but I got very little German on the thingamajig. I even have, like names and stuff, because my mom is like real in touch with all of the ancestry stuff from, how people like family stuff sometimes, like family history and
pass on stuff.
she has actually a Bible from Germany, like a family Bible that has in the front, it has a bunch of births and
Ooh.
deaths recorded in it. It's like
Oh,
this
wow.
big, and it's got like one of
Yeah.
those locks, like a metal clasp.
Schlagen and Flaggen. Yeah, 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 yeah. Very cool. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's cool.
yeah. So I think we can get back just real quick to the COVID thing. So I really like the Sherlock Holmes thing that I was saying, because I always like my analogies. And the other thing, what else? It's like, so there's a like a conveyor belt. I guess this is called the news cycle, but there's like this conveyor
Mm.
belt of talking points that just keeps like it never stops, and
On both sides,
oh
you
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
just on one
Yeah,
side?
it's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
and it's just wacky, and it looks like the conveyor belt on the mainstream side has been slowing. I mean, it seems to me, especially in America. Now I know there's some places like Australia and like Los Angeles, which is not really part of America, um,
Correct.
that have essentially not shown signs of change yet. But
Yeah.
I mean, the Supreme Court has struck
Well,
down
like
vaccine mandates for
officially.
most professional situations. And actually, companies wanted that. So companies don't want these kinds of problems with their employees. Like if there's a large amount of employees that will be extremely disgruntled, some that will quit, there
Mhm.
is, a labor power and there is a business power that is not interested in disrupting business as usual. And that is a sizable constituency. And they actually brought the suit. I think there was like an airline company or something that brought the suit that ended up to the
Mhm.
Supreme Court.
I was gonna say that's one of the talking points of that. Well, of the other side is that they're just doing this because they just want the big companies to take over and everybody to be vaccinated and for everybody to not have any other place to work. So then you're forced to get vaccinated and then you have to go to work in Amazon where everybody is and blah 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 blah. And so you're saying companies like Amazon, for example, to take a massive one, probably doesn't want that to happen.
Well, I don't know what Amazon was. I mean, Amazon is kind of a special situation, but a lot of traditional employers that are large companies, large corporations, like I know this one airline, I forget which one it is, but one of the major airlines was really didn't want to do it. I mean, it takes a lot of resources, and they also were part of the lobby to totally unscientifically reduce the quarantine time.
Was that Southwest airline or no? Was that the whole thing, the Let's Go Brandon situation where the pilot said
I
that, right?
don't,
And then
I don't,
everybody was like,
I don't know that one.
I forgot to make a meme of that. God damn it, I just remembered. I wanted to like pretend like I'm the pilot, like, oh, we got a flight 247 head now to Let's Go Brandon and fuck oat milk. I just wanted to like say random stuff that like he didn't say because there's some videos of that going around, like of people just saying like random stuff that he actually didn't say. Anyway.
Right.
Because I had a few people approach me and be like, "Dude, did you hear what this pilot said? He said, 'Let's go, Brandon,' and then he said this," and it's like he didn't say all of that. People just made up these videos, and it was really funny.
Yeah, that's unfortunate that that makes people excited. Like, oh, did you hear that
Oh, yes.
an airline pilot? It's like somebody said in Canada, lots of
Yeah,
private
bro.
businesses are choosing to mandate. Yeah, so America was so there was this time when, and here's another thing. So since this has become, and this is what I've been rambling on about. This episode has been entirely unscientific. Okay, on both sides, there's been an opposition that has not seen a kooky idea that it doesn't love, and there has been a mainstream
Mhm.
side which sees their policies as unfalsifiable, which is the definition of unscientific. So, given that situation, it has just been who has the mimetic power, and that's where the news comes in, right? Because they scare people with things, and so the mimetic power was on the side of the institutions. So, of course, the mainstream side, the side that can run the mainstream news, is always going to have an advantage in that. And there's a few times when they will lose that advantage, such as the Trump campaign, because the online memers overcame the inherent asymmetry of mimetic power that the mainstream media had with their online meta media. And that's when most people learned what memes were actually, formally. And so recently, there has been what appears to me as a total rollover of like the mimetic momentum of this thing. People, like for example, at work, the idea that you would be at work coughing continually in the office, that you share with
Mhm.
10 other people at your desk while you're like writing a paper or
Mhm.
something, was unthinkable this time last year or even just 6 months ago. That would be very rude
Yeah, right.
and looked down upon.
The whole nurses situation, you reminded me of that. You know that whole nurses situation that was going on, right? Where, obviously they fired a bunch, right, that didn't want to take the jab, and
Then they just
then
said, fuck it.
and then now yeah,
Hmm.
and now they need more nurses, and they're just like, well, you got the vaccine, but you're sick right now, but we need you to work. So TikTok, motherfucker, right?
Yes. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the definition of
Because
politically
a year
correct.
ago, that would have been like, right? All those same people would have been like, right? Like, you can't do
Right.
that.
Because they actually believed in it because of the mimetic power and momentum. It's gone now. So
Mhm.
now they don't have that confidence. It's like a religious zealot who has a crisis of faith, and they're doing whatever their zealotry had them doing, and now all of a sudden they are less, driven. And you can
Mhm.
see this in all kinds of movements. I mean, like if you read about the Chinese Cultural Revolution or whatever, like the fervor of the early revolution, and it's petering out, and this just always will happen and always does happen, which is another thing. When people that were worried about it, like, oh, they're going to keep pushing and take over the whole world with this whatever,
Mhm.
that never happens. That doesn't happen. These kinds of social movements, they change and they die out unless they have continual infusions of this like mimetic momentum. And
Mhm.
I'm sure a lot of people would like for that to have happened in the news, but you just can't. When there's real life people that have to go to work and they just start going, because you've got that big middle, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm so scared of the virus, and I'm going to do everything. I'm going to stay home and save lives. Remember that when people would put that on their Facebook profile?
Oh yeah, stay home, save lives.
And
the Facebook thing is my
right.
favorite,
So
man. When they put
would
that little circle
anybody
around their picture.
have that now? Would anybody have that now? Ask yourself that. Would anybody have that now as an avatar? Would anybody say that phrase, stay home, save lives?
Well, it kind of has become the wear a mask, save lives. Right?
Yeah, but they themselves will say it's safer to stay home. If this thing is really a deadly virus.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that people will just, for themselves, decide, like, yeah, it's deadly, but they're like going to do whatever the fuck they want to do.
Event, a phenomenon that was not something that people believe in the same way as, like, you know, if I don't fill my car up with gasoline, it'll eventually stop going and not go anymore. Like, that's the kind of thing that you're like, you're not like, oh, really, you know, they've been telling me that for years. I'm just tired of it, man. Like, you got to go to the gas station and stuff. It's like, maybe they're just making this up. Nobody, see, that's an example of something that people actually believe and have like an interface with in reality. So, but the fact that people that on the other side wanted to say that, like, the whole everybody's going to be forced to have 10 vaccines and blah, 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 blah.
Boosters.
Yeah. Those people had no perspective that there would ever be a slowing down, because when you're in the middle of something, you can't really see it slowing down. It's kind of like, you know, the day that your girlfriend breaks up with you, you can't actually, like, imagine when you're going to stop being sad about it.
That's it, man. I'm just gonna floor it. Let's go 150.
Yeah, exactly. But everybody around you knows immediately, like, hey, I know this sucks really bad right now, but, like, you're not going to feel this way in 6 months, right?
Man, I really loved it. You don't understand. You don't understand, Kyle. This was the one.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, believe me, I know.
You don't understand, okay? We had it all planned out. All right, man. And you're like, bro, why aren't you going a little bit over speed, huh? You want to slow down a little bit? No, man, listen.
Yeah, I love her, man.
I love her, man. Oh, man. Oh, my God.
A couple more comments. I remember coworkers coming into work with pneumonia and coughing all day a few years ago, and no one would bat an eye. Now, if you have a single sneeze, it's like you're carrying the plague. That was true 6 months ago or a year ago. That's not true now. You can just sneeze and cough at work. I can literally take my mask off to sneeze, so I don't sneeze on my mask or cough, and then put it back on.
Yeah, but again, you're living in a sane place.
No,
I'm saying
in the university.
Oh, but it's still Florida. I'm just telling you. Right here in LA,
I don't think the university are any different.
It's not as well. I'm not 6 months ago. I'm just saying it still would have been much more of a fucking in your face reaction. But I'm just saying, in places like Canada, Toronto. By the way, Toronto has their gyms closed right now. They have their gyms closed. You know what I'm saying? I have a client there right now.
Lifters.
So I'm just saying, like those in Australia, obviously. In LA, but most of America, yeah, like it's good. We're good.
I'm not
go.
saying you're
but
good.
Florida,
I'm saying even in a place where you're forced to wear a mask, like me, people will not get on you about it. And I'm telling you, dude, these are LA
freak
people.
Out about
like
it, right?
These are the kind of people.
Yeah.
I hear their conversations, you know, and
yeah. I believe you. Well, you're saying 6 months ago they would have.
6 months ago, it would,
Kyle,
or at least somebody would have been like the second you cough, it's like. And everybody's looking at you, and you're just like, well, boy, the allergies this year, right? Am I right? Look, I have Claritin. I'm an allergic person.
Allergies? Let me see your card.
Let
me see your card. Yeah. You're right.
It's not taken seriously anymore, even by people that purport to believe in it. Somebody asked about the trucker thing. To me, that's like a Let's Go Brandon thing. I'm not really. It's like, let's go truckers.
Yeah, good for them. Canada, I'm good. God bless, but I don't think I'm ever gonna go. Like, I ever want to go there.
I think that it's nice that.
You ever been?
Oh no! I'm talking about the actual protest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's nice that if people truly believe something isn't necessary and that it's an overreach, that they do something about it. But the thing that I don't like is I have different kind of political. I feel like this has become, like, for example, Facebook allows you to spin whatever kind of like viruses don't real ideas in their platform, which a bunch of liberals are pulling their hair out. And you can read articles where people will argue, like liberals will argue back and forth. Will say, well, but they're in an echo chamber, you know. And then the hardcore, like the triggered, like the 10x cat lady will be like, they shouldn't have any, like they shouldn't even be able to talk in their own echo. You know what I mean? Like I want to know that their tongue is ripped out. That's what will make me happy. I can feed it to my 10x cats.
She definitely still have the stay home, stay live sticker.
Yeah, that's like the one person.
She has the one from Paris. Remember when Paris, that concert
Paris
happened
strong.
or whatever, a bunch of people died? Yeah, you remember.
I wish I still had an Orlando strong from when that Arab guy shot that club.
Oh yeah.
What was it? That night?
I remember
what was it called?
that.
Something nightclub.
I don't know, Rage or something like that, I think.
It became Rage. So anyway, yeah, but I think that this has become an issue that the mainstream parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, are very comfortable running on. And like they actually like this debate. They like people to be arguing about this stuff. And there's other things that are, you know, that they would rather this be talked about than that. And that's the way I see it. So, there's actually one more topic I wanted to talk about. So our virus is real. Did you watch that video?
Yes. And I was actually going to bring it up in case you forgot. I was literally going to say, dude, one thing we didn't talk about, the Alex Jones side.
I'll actually give this guy.
You're talking about Kaufman or what?
Yeah, Kaufman.
Yeah. Andrew Kaufman.
He,
yes.
So I will say one thing. If, and here's the problem, you know, I would have to go and do like this big literature review to see if he's kind of telling the truth or whatever. But the micrograph, the visualization situation for human viruses is unimpressive, to say the least. Like, in other words, like the electron micrographs of bacteriophage and other similar small particles, whether infectious or cellular constituents, are much more convincing.
Meaning you can see them very well. It looks like something is there. Yeah,
they seem to be able to be relatively purified, such that there's pretty much mostly one thing in the field, you know? And so...
in the case of viruses.
Yeah, in the case of human viruses, the micrographs that he showed were not anywhere near as convincing. However, I'm not sure those are the only micrographs that exist. I mean, it'd be very easy for him to just say that these are representative.
Kind of the same situation of pulling out the shittiest picture and being like, look!
Yeah, it's like the flip side of the...
yeah.
So one thing I'll say is there's actually a lot of people that... It's funny because the conspiracy or alternative concepts will sometimes get their wires crossed. Like Harold Hillman, for example, he's one of the guys that is in the Ray Peat world as he was one of the big interviewees of On the Back of a Tiger, the failed project from those two charlatans. He would say that electron microscopy was essentially useless to show real structures. A lot of people don't know this, but electron microscopy it's like an extremely invasive. It's pretty much the most invasive, other than just straight up, other than something that just lyses and homogenizes cells and turns them into goop. After that, it annihilates this. What it does is you cover a cell with metal.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't do this on a human.
Well, it's happening. I mean, you could take a human sample and you put it.
Right, but I'm just saying you can't do it on a human. I'm just giving people like.
Oh yeah, it would kill them. But you'd also need a machine that's like the size of like a town. Because you do this to like microscopic particles, and it's the
room, right? Yeah.
So you bombard these structures with magnetic metals, and the metals, and that's kind of what dyes are actually. Like when you're doing light microscopy and you have a dye, for example, the gram positive, the gram dye that delineates between gram positive and gram negative bacteria. Ultimately, those are just, at the level of single molecules, where liquids and solids are less of a, they're just things that chemically, basically electrically, stick to other things, right? So if a dye takes to something, then it's has an electric molecular interaction with that thing that is relatively permanent. If it's a permanent dye, then it's pretty permanent, and if it's something you can kind of wash out, or maybe you have to use a specific chemical to wash it out, or if it doesn't stick to it at all, then it doesn't have that kind of electrical interaction with those molecules that you're trying to get it to stick to, like gram negative, right? It doesn't stick. So it's similar with the electron microscopy, except you're bombarding something with metals and it just totally annihilates it, totally kills it. And it like covers over the structures. This is similar to how crystallography is done too, it's kind of like a replacement. So it's like, say you wanted to do an X-ray. You know how X-rays go through soft tissue and they can only do like bone. Say you wanted to, like, I don't know, use an X-ray on your soft tissue, and you were like, here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to calcify my soft tissue. And then the X-rays will bounce off it, and I can image my soft tissue by you know what I mean? So it's like you're doing that to the soft tissue of cellular microconstituents, okay? And then now that you have impregnated that sample with these metals, they can either transmit or reflect electrons, right? Because they're metals. So they interact with electrons in a characteristic way of metals. And that's why it's an electron microscopy. So all this to just say that it's just one of those funny things that struck me, like that somebody would use electron microscopy as a debunking, when a lot of people that have alternative science ideas think that electron microscopy is bunk. As a thing, like they would say those pictures of phages are fake. They would say those pictures of they would be like anything in electron microscopy. But
so you're saying you found it funny that Kaufman used that?
Because electron microscopy probably does create a large amount of artifacts, either structures that just aren't there, or the treatment makes structures like if you dried something. Like if you dried a grape and saw a raisin, and then you said, "Hey, look, I have a sample of a grape."
That's what it looks like. I get it.
That doesn't mean you're getting no information, but if you don't know that your treatment changed the thing you're looking at, and you think this is what it looked like before the drying, and then you see a real grape, you wouldn't even know that's a grape because they look pretty different.
But he is taught classically, right? He's an MD, but a psychiatrist or psychologist. He did
work
I think he gave up his license
on.
I followed that guy, by the way, before all of this. Like I've heard of him before. Yeah, well, like followed. You know what I'm saying? Like I've heard of him before. Yeah. But he's been on that train of kind of like disease is not real kind of thing. So
your camera.
This disease is not real kind of thing. So he's been doing a lot. Maybe is it back? I'm good yet. Or still?
It's because
fucking camera. I'm so sorry. Come on, you fucking. Yeah.
So yeah. So I will say though, if that's true about the imaging, I mean, all right. Well, so anyway, there's some good questions of. Here's one thing I'll say, and I'll say this about most of biology, and the smaller, right, and it's science in general, right. When you get really, really small or really, really big, right? So space, like I'm in a space cuck here. if space is real, and pulsars and quasars and black holes, they're so far away, they're so big that the forces that people are saying they're involved with are so massive compared to anything that we have experience with, that the margin for error is just enormous. I mean, we could be misinterpreting this stuff way more than you could misinterpret something that's right in front of you. Okay. And it's the same thing with things that are really small. So the smaller things get, the farther we above them. So I think that there's probably some really several revolutions in virology that might even change the field such that the basic theory is different. That those are in play. But I don't think viruses aren't real, and there's a few reasons why.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they're not.
Well, because I
real.
was going to ask you, because the thing that you hear is they haven't isolated the virus. And I love it.
Well, the reason, actually, that's a reasonable thing to say, but it's become a repeated word by people that
they don't know what they're saying.
Right. So, and
Right.
you can kind of hear it. Again, it's the texture. Like you can hear that that's something that's just repeated and not repeated from a position of like, I know what this is. I'm really comfortable with this concept. It's like in other words, they only know the concept from the virus debunking. They didn't know what that was, and then had somebody present. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're just repeating it. They're just parroting somebody else's
right.
shit. Okay.
And it's always better to know if somebody's giving evidence for for their idea. You should have the ability to evaluate that evidence. So if you're learning about that evidence as evidence, then you really don't have the ability to evaluate that evidence, you know? Like if somebody's teaching you how protein chemistry works to explain using protein chemistry something, then you're not the right person to make that judgment call, okay? And the thing about isolation, and this is just me spitballing because I actually don't know that much about virology. What I know about is that if somebody came up to me and said, it's way harder to purify. See, I like the term purify because that's what I do. Like when I get a protein, I try to purify it. I could say isolate, but it's in a buffer solution. It's in water. I mean, it's not in a vacuum.
You can't ever yeah. So it's not just going to be like there.
Yeah, like
that's
floating in like an electromagnetic
just
field.
floating in the air. Yeah.
And I wouldn't, if somebody said it's way harder to purify subcellular constituents of eukaryotic cells than prokaryotic, I would be like, that doesn't surprise me, because prokaryotic cells don't really have subcellular constituents the same way. In other words, like a bacterial cell is kind of almost the size of some of these subcellular constituents of a eukaryotic cell. And there's the cytoskeletal matrix and all that. So there's so many more structures. A bacterial cell it's very simple. It's like, like a hammer versus a car kind of a situation. To think of like a prokaryote, like a bacterial type cell versus like a human type cell. In the diversity of, so like if a hammer is like one tool, and a car is like a device that's formed of many, many tools that work together and that have like systems of like fueling themselves and like inner computers and stuff. So it wouldn't really surprise me if you could purify something. Like, for example, the DNA, it's much easier to purify the DNA from bacteria and to manipulate it than from eukaryotic cells. So you can, like, I do genetic engineering on bacteria, on E. coli. I can't, like, with the equipment that I have, it's not sophisticated enough. The tools aren't sophisticated enough for me to like genetically engineer, a human cell. Like if I had a human liver or cell line and I wanted to introduce a mutation to change some gene so I could test some drug or whatever, that requires a lot more techniques and more tools. But having worked with bacteria, I know of a few things that are kind of like viruses. So I talked about bacteriophage, which is kind of popular in the repeat world. So you know about that, right? You can take it supposedly to kill bacteria.
Yeah. We'll just give it a little background, or you don't want to. Okay, whatever. Go ahead.
Well, I thought like have you ever tried phage products?
I haven't. I've only read about them on the repeat forum.
I tried them.
Which repeat doesn't like himself, but right. Yes, I'm just joking.
So they're kind of so-called the viruses of bacteria. And there's something else though called a plasmid, which is it's almost like a mini bacteria. It's kind of like a virus, except it doesn't have any protein to speak of. I mean, I think it might be complex with a little bit of protein, but it's basically just circular DNA. So prokaryotes have circular DNA instead of linear, which is one of the reasons why they're easier to manipulate, because it's just easier to have enzymes that will copy and do things to a circular DNA than a linear DNA. Linear DNA has a lot more problems. It is also, the whole telomere situation. But so plasmids are something that are readily taken up by bacteria and that you can give them. So if you want, it's like, I want bacteria to produce the human insulin gene and make insulin so I can sell it as insulin product. Now you probably can't do that. It's probably super duper hard to get a bacteria like E. coli, a really simple one, to produce a eukaryotic protein that's, way out of its league. And like you would have to give it a plasmid that has all kinds of called rare codons. So the actual genetic code that bacteria use are sometimes different than it changes in stages. So
it wouldn't happen basically. Normally.
It would take a lot of engineering. It wouldn't be easy. Like it's easy to to grow like if you have a bacteria that you want to study and it produces a protein, but it's a bacteria that grows in really weird conditions, and it would be really hard to grow a lot of it. So if you can clone that gene and put it in a plasmid, so now you have essentially a vector. It's a bunch of DNA that has a promoter that you can have different kinds of promoters, but essentially when you give the bacteria this plasmid, right, that has the gene that you want it to grow in there, you give it a chemical that stimulates that promoter. So it's like, I'm turning it on now. So you grow up you grow up a colony of bacteria. You got a flask. It's nice and cloudy with bacteria. It smells like bacteria. Then you give it the chemical that interacts with the promoter. Then it starts firing off that gene that you put in there, assuming everything worked. And it does work. I've seen it, and it's kind of like a virus. I mean, I give the E. coli this genetic product and tell it to make a protein for me. So it's like I'm the virus. I'm the man behind the virus. It's like all the E. coli's like, hey, like one E. coli's like, hey, have you ever heard of this conspiracy theory that there's this guy and he's like, he gets us and he harvests.
Oh God, this is some Kyle level fucking jokes here.
He grows a lot of us and we think that he's just giving us food for free, but really and then he gives us this plasmid and we're like, oh sweet, a plasmid. I love getting these in nature. It gives me important genes. But really it's just for him. And then so plasmids are often for, how they'll say bacteria have antibiotic resistance? Yeah. So that often comes from plasmids. So there's also plasmids for like heat shock proteins, different kinds of stresses. And when you stress a bacteria, in fact, the way to get a bacteria to take up a plasmid is to stress it. So I have my plasmid in a solution, and I have some E. coli DNA, and I want to get the plasmid integrated into there, or I have E. coli cells, right? I'll put them in like some hot water, not too hot, but like a little bit hotter than they like. And they get like it's called a heat shock, right? And they'll produce heat shock proteins, but they'll also become more permeable to plasmids. Anything, you can use electricity, you can use chemicals. And I think this is actually a very broad biological. I actually started an essay on this like a while ago, but I never finished it, about how trauma creates uptake. So like that's why people get traumatized, because stress creates uptake, and it's all the way. It's like a bacteria, like bacteria do that. Like if they get stressed out, they will take up information, such as DNA, and they may get lucky because they may be being stressed out by an antibiotic chemical, which not necessarily from a human, but from like a fungus. It's like they're growing on a tree branch. There's a fungus growing on the tree branch. The fungus has an antibiotic that it likes to give to compete with the bacteria. It's getting attacked. It's getting beat up. And it's like, oh my God, and then it's like, it finds this piece of DNA that just happens to have a gene that codes for a protein that pumps out that antibiotic, pumps it out. and now it can grow, and now it's going to reproduce a lot, right? And now that's going to have an advantage. So if and that's the idea of using an antibiotic, gives them antibiotic resistance, because now maybe just some of them get that ability, but they're going to take over the colony. They're going to take over that area, whether it's in your body or like, in a hospital, patients, whatever. So anyway, the way plasmids work, the way phage supposedly work, the way viruses work, that they're related to human DNA, some of the ideas of RNA, DNA, protein, evolutionary theory, it all kind of makes sense to me. And I'm not surprised. I'd also be surprised if there was something that goes around person to person and makes you sick.
What do you mean? Like a virus?
Like it wasn't a virus. You know what I mean? It's like, because if it was like
something else,
like 5G, it just doesn't seem like contact with somebody that has it would do anything. It seems like.
Now, question: when they say it hasn't been isolated, by the way, are they talking about all viruses, or are they talking about just this virus?
That I don't know. I know that they're talking about this virus.
Right, yeah. That's because you never even heard anybody say that, parrot it before, right?
No, I
now
have. You have. When I was into the Agenus Vonderplanets thing.
Okay. Well, okay. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I'm just saying, not in this sense. You know what I'm saying?
Not in this scientific or medicalized terms. No.
Yeah, like, so now I'm wondering, are they talking about just like viruses haven't been isolated, or this virus?
So. I think they're talking about human virus. Well, I think Kaufman is talking about human.
It's a good question, right? Because I don't think. Because I've seen, that wasn't the first video of his I've seen that you sent.
Yeah, so he's saying all they do. All right, so let's just take what he said at face value. So he said all they do is they take infectious material, put it in a cell culture, and show that it has some type of pathogenic effect, and that they can genetically sequence it. And he's like, that's not good enough. Okay. All right, fine. But the thing is, it's almost like what he's talking about becomes a distinction without a difference, because if there's a thing that's transmissible from cell, like host organ, right? So if it's a human virus, it's transmissible from human sample of somebody who's sick to human cell lines or to another human, et cetera, et cetera. It causes characteristic pathological effects, and it's related to, and it can be, discovered in a sequencing, experiment. Does it really matter at that? I mean, at that point, it's like, if it has some type of different essence to it.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't, right? Like, well, to me at least, it doesn't.
I mean, really is it something you can get from somebody else? Does it make you sick in the way that we think of viruses? Does it spread in the way that they do? And
so maybe his point is that there's other things in there that could be making you sick, or maybe not. Because I don't know. Because then that's a whole question of like, what does he think makes people sick, right? Is it something that
he doesn't bring up, and which is why it kind of gets into that God of the gaps. It's like, if you can't show me, like if you're saying this organism and this organism are evolutionarily related, and you can't show me every one between, then
yeah, it's a question of like, what does he really think makes you sick then? So if it's not that, so are people just, is it all a fucking placebo or whatever?
Well, if it's some kind of like
sick?
Damaging chemical presence, some molecular presence, some particle in these sick people and in their infectious fluids, and that can be transmitted to another person or to a cell line for study, and that has pathogenic effects that are characteristic. I mean,
right?
Or is it not that? I don't know. So he did also question the genetic sequencing, which this I gotta. This is
you got a tickle from that one.
This one's funny because he was making sort of a good story that if you just rearrange in a certain kind of way, non-coding genes in people, you can come up with all of these viruses and their variants and whatnot, their strains. Now, That I would have to look at, because that would be very interesting.
I feel like we need a couple more videos of his to look over to. Maybe we can, I don't know, chat about this a little more. Because yeah, now I'm really curious too.
Well, I don't really like to
Talk about it again.
well, I can see where this is going, and it's like I don't want to become obsessed with it, but
Yeah. No. Don't worry.
but yeah, the thing that, like, for example, with mutations and strains of viruses, I'm impressed with the idea that the symptoms of people that get COVID have changed over time, and it seems to be in line with when they, because of course when somebody tests positive, they don't always test the strain, right? Because that's like a whole different thing. When they do that, it seems to be related to these mutations. And furthermore, the whole thing with vaccination. Now this gets into one of the guys that I really like, Geert Vanden Bosch.
Vanden Bosch? Yeah.
Is he Dutch?
Dutch, I think.
He said that the vaccines will accelerate the evolutionary rate of virus, right? Because it gives it, it's just like antibiotics.
And he wasn't the only one, but yeah, a lot of people have said
Right.
that, right? A lot of educated people
So
have said that.
if that is totally dependent. So in other words, to go down this road of like the one thing, you have to throw that out. Right, obviously.
Yeah.
But that made so much sense to me, because they started showing all these different, this explosion of evolution, and these different strains that happen faster. There's kind of a characteristic rate, right? Like once something becomes endemic in the population, like the seasonal cold, the seasonal flu. Some years it's really bad. Some years it's not that bad, but it's always different. And actually, one of the big anti-vax claims, and one of the more credible ones, or one of the ones that's like easier to get your hands around and understand, is that every year when they make the flu vaccine, they just say, we think it's going to have this strain. This strain is going to be the dominant strain. They don't know. It's a prediction based on something, maybe pre-testing in the population, some type of predictive algorithm. I don't know. And because they have to make the vaccine.
Darts. I heard they just do darts.
Because, a vaccine that's not properly targeted will have some level of efficacy. But of course, if you know exactly, assuming all of this stuff is real, this is all above board, right? Viruses are real, antibodies are real, vaccine, assuming all of that, you can have maximum efficacy with you've got the strain of the flu, you get deactivated flu, you inject that into people, they have an immune response. When they come in contact with the living, so-called, viral quasi-living version of that strain, you wipe it out immediately, never even notice it, right? So, and then the further from that particle that you've invoked an immune response in the person with the supposedly deactivated virus in the vaccine, the more different that is, the less recognized it's going to be to the antibodies that you produced, and the more symptoms you have, up to it just not working at all and you just getting the flu just as bad. And also the flu vaccines really seems to give people like a mini flu anyway. So not everybody, but like a lot of people will get like 3 days of, fever, and it's just like, that's the flu.
Which most people just would do the same thing would happen, right?
Probably. Like, some people get the flu really. Yeah. And again, I mean, if somebody's really old and this is all kind of,
has diabetes, overweight, right? All the worst stuff. Yeah. Is it always, by the way, the case of, like, before all of this happened, was it always the case that when they gave you the flu shot, because I don't know, that they would say, well, like you said, because I have heard that, I was aware of that, of the whole, they're just throwing darts and they're just like, it's going to be this one this year. But was it always the case of you should still get the flu shot, and it will lessen your symptoms of the flu if you get this season's flu, even though it's not the one that we injected into you, right? Was that always a thing?
I think that was a thing, but it wasn't it didn't have the religiosity of the COVID vaccine statement. Like that,
Yeah, I'm like, because
yeah,
no, I don't
that
know.
that that I believe was because that's my understanding of it. So I
Uh-huh.
think that would be a regular virologist's understanding of it, which is there's some type of spectrum of how similar, because even so when you're doing protein biochemistry, sometimes you make it like a Western blot, right? So if I'm growing a protein or I'm measuring the expression of a protein and I'm using a Western blot, which is like the classical technique, you need antibodies for that. So what you do is you get antibodies and you cover your sample in them and then you wash everything away. And if they're really antibodies, then they will have stuck to your sample because that's what antibodies do. They stick to the antigen. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
you can have less good. So you could have like perfect antibodies, like they stick right away. They're super selective. They don't stick to other stuff. So that's really important. And when
Mm-hmm.
you wash everything else away, they stay strong. Okay. And you can have ones that are partially interact. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
every molecule, that's the other thing, even in specific biology, every molecule interacts to some extent with another one. So like
Mm-hmm.
they will stick to other things, but it'll be such a low amount that when you use the fluorescent chemical, which is the last step, which actually allows you to visualize the antibodies sticking to the antigen that you're presenting, there will be negligible fluorescence elsewhere, even if there's tiny, unnoticeable amounts of non-specific antibody antigen interaction. So when you're designing it as a scientist, you're kind of on a spectrum of like, is this sticking to the thing I want it to stick to, and is it not sticking to other
Mm-hmm.
stuff? And the body does that when it makes antibodies for invading particles,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
depending on how different the particle is. So it's like I'd made my best attempt at making something that sticks to this, and something
Yeah.
that's like,
So it sounds like it was probably always a thing, but I just never paid attention to it. I wonder if anybody has.
yeah. Again, I mean, the anti-vax, even before now, the anti-vax world was, and again, I'm not saying anything is wrong, in the sense like, to me, it is physically possible that viruses don't exist. I would never say that virology is an unfalsifiable theory. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it's at the level of like bacteriology. I think it's a lower, like it is a less mature science. But
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that generally anti-vax people are very turned on by extreme statements that they do not consider unfalsifiable, and they're not interested in them being
Yeah.
falsified. And so, and that makes it difficult to have the conversations like, why is there like ethylated mercury in this one? Like, isn't that like a neurotoxin? And then it's like, no. And then
Yeah.
like somebody's like got a vaccine, and they've got a lab coat, and they're like, hey, by the way, this doesn't cause autism. And you're like, it's like absolutely nobody. Guy with a new vaccine, you're gonna go to jail if you
Yeah.
say this causes autism. And you're just like, hey,
I'm just, yeah,
sir,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is
Asking for a
Arby's.
friend. Welcome to
And
Arby's.
it
How may
makes
I take your
and
order?
that kind of behavior. And again, it's metaphysically possible that vaccines
Yeah.
don't cause autism. It's also possible that in some people, like they these known neurotoxins having a characteristic neurotoxic effect, maybe it's a
Yeah.
super small amount. All of these things are possible, but we can't have that conversation. And so anyway, this is all kinds of like perspectives that I like to write about, like when the book we were talking about, like this is we're entering this post scientific age, this post truth age, and people were saying, so so kind of, if you had a textbook like the post scientific age of the West, right? I would say the cover
Hmm.
should be people that don't have that say they don't have a sex, that they're not male or female,
Yeah.
and
Non-binary.
yeah, non-binary people,
Uh-huh.
perhaps, and
Hmm.
like a COVID vaccine that says like tested long term, tested for 3 months, permanently safe. Like that's the other thing. Like they'll say these ridiculous things like, "This was tested for safety. This is definitely safe," and it's like the standards.
6 months ago.
The standards for safety for a drug are not the time horizon that you've had to develop this drug. So you literally changed the definition of safety for a vaccine, or for any drug really, but even for a vaccine, just so that you could say it. So you've changed. It's like if somebody misses the basket and they move like somebody shoots a ball, right? And the trajectory is clearly not going to go into the hoop, and you move space and time so that not the ball, so that like the hoop reaches the ball, and then you go, see, they made the shot. It's like, oh, this is safe.
Yeah.
Like you didn't do anything other than just change the definition of safe. And of course we can't have these conversations, because the second you say that, there's somebody who's like, hey, did you know there's no gold in Fort Knox? And you're just like, here he is. He's like, here's the guy. I had this bowl of punch and now there's poop in it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
and again, not that you can't ever have those conversations, but like, it's like when you're hanging out with people that don't have social graces, and they just, like their timing is off when they're making a joke and telling a story, and you can't have a high level of banter. Those kinds of people.
Yeah, it just gets, it worsens everybody's. Yeah, it worsens the whole group. You're like, ha, and then he says something, and you're like, yeah. And then he just gets worse. You're like, fuck this guy. And then you're like, who brought this fucking asshole to the party? Yeah,
right.
Man.
So that's basically my thing on Schmovid 19.
I'm glad we talked about it. I haven't had anybody talk about it. I'm glad we brought it up. So I heard about this thing now.
Somebody said Ron Paul wants Fort Knox audited. Yeah, he's wanted that for like, he was the chair of the. I can't
believe he's still fucking alive. How old is he now? Jesus
yeah, he's
Christ.
He actually had a stroke on his.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He has like a news.
Knock on wood.
He has like an online news channel. I don't watch it, but, and yeah, supposedly he had like a stroke like a few months ago on air, but he's gone back to doing it.
On air? Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, like he started talking and slurring.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a mini stroke or whatever. It wasn't like terrible. He didn't like fall off the chair.
Oh yeah, I think he's fine. You know how strokes are. It's like if you catch it right away, it's fine. It's just like back in the day, they didn't know what to do, and they would just be like, lay down, and then you'd wake up and like half your body's paralyzed. That's what they did. They were like, yeah, it's like, hey, you need some bed rest, and it's just like,
want a shot of whiskey or something?
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah, he was the what is it when a congressperson is the head of something, or like the chair of like, the Ways and Means Committee? He was the chair of like the money, like the oversight, like the whatever the congressional oversight of the Fed was, and he used to like bring Bernanke on and be like, Mr. Bernanke, it's gold money. He never actually got anything done, though.
Served as the U.S. representative for Texas's 22nd congressional district from 1976 to 77, and again from 79 to 85.
What's his? Does he have the chairmanship on there?
This is just Wikipedia.
Yeah,
dude, this is a lot. This motherfucker lived.
Yeah.
14th district. Yeah, good for him. No, dude, I'm not going to find what you're looking for, because I don't know what I'm looking for. So,
so you have anything else you want to talk about? It's been about 3 hours.
We're doing good, holding strong. No, not really. I don't remember. You already did the Russian thing. That was your Russian question at the beginning, right?
Yeah. You never gave me if I should change some exercises for my chest routine.
Oh, okay. So if you want to just trash your chest, you can do this with any muscle.
What I want to do is get the proprioception.
Yes, how to do that. So you just have to fucking, like I told, bands are good for that. Bands. And specifically bands, even over cable machines sometimes. Because again, as you're coming out, it forces you to tense more. So but it's kind of hard to find the perfect band, but you can find it. It's not that difficult. The band, like I said, that you can actually bring forward in front of you, like in a chest fly. But that still makes you work. Just doing that before some whatever chest exercise.
Okay.
Rocking and rolling. rocking and rolling, making sure you're not doing flat bench, right? Because it's going to be mostly deltoid, right? Right, like you're
That's
going to be
crazy.
below your.
That's so crazy.
What? What is so crazy?
Because that's like the when most people, even weightlifters, think of chest strength.
For sure. And again, it's that talk of, you take Arnold Schwarzenegger, you can give him any fucking exercise and he'll figure out how to use the muscle that he wants to use. You know what I'm saying? That's what those guys, and that's kind of one sad thing that happened with bodybuilding, is that's like completely gone. I mean, not completely, but we've lost that because there was a whole art to it. Like, that's why people came up even with different exercises, because they were trying to figure out a way to, like, I can't really feel this one when I'm doing this, and So yeah, like what I'm saying is, if you know what you're doing, you can. I know how to make my bench press feel on my chest, but a lot of dudes don't, and you can see it, and and a lot of dudes just keep doing it too. That's the funny thing. Like, their delts are like fucking this big in the front, the front deltoid, but the chest is like tiny.
Yeah,
but they're benching
I think
220
my front deltoid has like grown a little bit, because when I went to like wipe my face, so like if I'm like sweaty, right? Like at the gym, and I go like this, there's like a lump here that like gets in the way.
Yeah. And again, to be fair, like, you're never going to truly isolate anything, including fire. Oh, got a zinger. So, but again, if you're good, the idea being is just you're always working on, getting better at that. So I would say doing some flies, like I told you. And even those, by the way, people suck at doing flies. You see that the same thing happening.
They don't feel like a muscle building exercise for some reason.
They're not. And that's also where the confusion also comes from, because it's like, because you have guys like, what's that guy's name? Doug Brignoli. Doug Brignoli. He's one of those like uber biomechanics guys. So he would be like, oh, well, the back squat is not really a good leg exercise because you're using your back and you're using your glutes, and it's really more lower. And in some sense, he is right, but he is right. But if I take Franco Colombo and I tell Franco, okay, do only the back squat for 6 months, or do leg extensions for 6 months, I guarantee you his legs will overall gain more muscle than if he was just doing, a quadricep exercise. But yes, other stuff will also grow. And so, like, if you're a bodybuilder, it's kind of a good thing to me. That's why I look at that. Like, that's why there's certain moves where it's like, yes, you're working other things, but that's okay, because what's wrong with having a stronger lower back?
See, that's the thing. I don't care about that at all, because I'm not really doing bodybuilding as such. The only muscle I really want to, try to get more specific work in is the chest. And also because I'm kind of rehabbing it still, I mean, it's basically been
of course,
almost a year to the day since the tendon rupture.
By the way, are you still feeling as much, resistance and kind of pain as you're doing your bench?
I think I've turned a corner. The last few times I've done chest
You were really worried there for a while.
I had plateaued to the point where I could use it, but it didn't feel great. And now it's getting back to where, like, because when your joints hurt and you can kind of almost not feel your muscle because you're like working through joint pain, and what you want is to feel like nothing except the muscle fatigue, right? That's like the ideal set, is you feel, and then I was having trouble like really getting into it, because I would feel like there was something, either pain or just it felt weird. And that has been getting a lot better.
So back to chest. And there's many ways you can go about it. One way I'll give you 2 ways. One way you can go about it is do this order of exercises. Do an exercise for your chest, which just warms you up overall, but focuses on your chest. So you could even do a flat. Here, by the way, with dumbbells, a flat bench is a lot more, you can make it a lot more chest focused versus a bench, a barbell, right? Because it's fixed, your arms are internally rotated, so it's a little bit harder. Whereas with the dumbbells, you can make it more chest focused. So you could do a flat bench, inclines are great. Because don't forget also, when you're on a flat bench, your hands, you think that your hands are 90 degrees, but they're actually down here. That's one reason that a lot of guys like a lot of traditional old school bodybuilders don't even do flat bench. They just do incline. That's like another school of thought. Anyway, so do an exercise which just gets you warmed up, 3 to 4 sets. You can get progressively heavier each set. Done. You get starting to feel your chest. Now you do like a heavy compound move, which just maybe you'll feel other muscles, your triceps working. So to start out, you could do your flat dumbbell bench press, 3 to 4 sets, get moving. Now you can, let's say, go to an incline barbell press and get heavy on it. Get to 6 reps. You could, for example, start with a lightweight, do 6 reps, put some more weights on, 6 reps, more plates, 6 reps. Just keep going until that 6 is really hard, and then do that a couple of times. So now you're doing like a really heavy, targeted move. But you're warmed up for it, is what I'm saying. You already did the preview. You're not going to be as strong, you know what I'm saying, as if when you just started doing, incline press. Are you following? You don't like it? You're shaking your chin. You don't like it.
No.
So that's number 2, and then number 3. Now at the end, you stretch all that shit out. Now you go to your fly machine. You could even do the bar one, like the machine one that's just like set in place. And now you stretch all that shit out. You try to get as much range of motion as you can, because now you're really fatigued up here, and now that stretching helps to get even more blood in there. So that's one really good way of going about it, and that's worked with many people I've worked with, and bodybuilders used it too. That's one way of doing it.
What about do you just not like lower like dips and stuff?
Oh, I love them. Yeah, it's just you told me before that you feel your triceps mostly in your front deltoid.
Yeah, but I would try to work on it. I try to lean forward and.
So I would use dips then as your first exercise. You could use it as your third exercise if you're like really stretching out, but I don't think it's for the chest specifically. I don't think it's stretchful enough. So you could do dips, 3 to 4 sets. If you could find a V-bar dips machine, it's a little bit better. You ever seen those? So the bars connect, there's a V shape, because then you can play around like, which setting do I feel my pecs more or my triceps? So, generally speaking, the narrower your hands are and the more upright you are, that's going to be more triceps. And the wider out you are, the more your elbows flare out, that's going to be more pecs. And you can do, speaking of Larry Scott, we brought him up earlier, the first Mr. Olympia. He's really famous for those, Larry Scott dips. You get your hands out as wide as you can. Get your feet out in front of you. Almost like don't go to quite an L sit, which gymnasts do that. They call it a Russian dip. You have your L. But just have your feet out in front of you. Look down. I'll make a post about it. I think it's a good exercise to pose. I just realized. But just telling you now, you have your feet out in front of you. You're looking down. So what that does is that leans you forward. And even see, just like me leaning forward, you can already kind of tell it's going to be more pecky. So you do your dips that way, and you will feel those titties pumping up. So you do 3 to 4 sets there, and then go to a heavy compound, like a barbell bench press. You could do flat, whatever. You could even do decline. Sometimes some people really feel decline. So, and again, it's just, you got to play around with it, and certain ones you might not feel, and then over a course of a year, you get better at it. And then you do your third exercise where you're just stretching all that out. Because now also you're really warm. You did all your heavy stuff. Hopefully you're not being dumb about it. You're not going crazy heavy on that last exercise. But you're just getting a lot of reps in. Just stretching it out and getting a lot of reps in and just kind of, tearing all that stuff up. Okay. That's one way of going about it. You want to hear another way, or is this too much?
How different is the other way?
A little, well, kind of the same, tell you the truth. Look, it's just a classic. Poliquin kind of coined this thing, but it's just that idea of the whole muscle fiber idea, right? You have your heavy muscle fiber, type 2, type 1, whatever. Here's the point. Just work that same muscle through all 3 major rep ranges. And they are usually 6 to 8 or less. If you're like a power lifter, it would be like 3 to 5. But we're looking for more hypertrophy, let's say. So 6 to 8, 8 to 15, or 8 to 12. I'd say 8 to 12. And then 20 reps and above. That's like generally speaking, right? You have like low reps, middle reps, which people usually identify with hypertrophy, and then endurance reps, right? We're like 20 reps and above. So pick 3 exercises, do them back to back to back, no rest. Like give yourself 10 seconds to just move over to the next exercise, next exercise, do that round, and then do that 3 times, you'll fuck yourself up. One example being, start with of course, warm up is before all of this. Do your barbell incline press, 6 reps. Make it hard so that you fail around 6, 7, not more than that, because you'll do something more. So do that. Then go to your dips. Dips are perfect. I think around 10 to 12, most people, that's like challenging, and then you start to fatigue and fail. 10-second rest, then you do your flies. Or light dumbbell press, but now you go for 20 reps.
So it's like a triple superset?
Yeah, it's a tricep. It's a tricep. That's what they would call it. That'll really fuck you up in a good way. And you can do that with all sorts of muscle, with all sorts of body parts too. And I've done that with people who are like having a hard time focus. You just crush it that way. Because then, like I said, you're working the. By the way, I don't know if I even believe in the whole like muscle fiber theory anymore. I don't think it really works like that. But anyway, it just trashes whatever. Because you can do things for a few reps, but not more. And then you can do things kind of in the middle, and then you can do things for like a lot of reps. But it's not. You can't be that heavy. So what I'm saying is just like you're covering all the bases, and you do it back to back to back, lower reps to higher reps. Done.
All right. Well, I'm probably gonna do the first one, just because I don't want to like be walking all over the.
Yeah, it's hard to do it at like a 24-hour fitness or whatever the fuck. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. But you could try that like. I mean, look, dude, you could even do it body weight. Honestly, you have some rings. You have gymnastic rings. Okay, you could do 6 to 8 dips on gymnastics rings, then do dips on parallel bars, because now that's a little bit easier, right? You can do more. And then finish off with push-ups, 20 reps. We'll crush your pecs. Dips, then more dips on the parallel bars, and then push-ups on the floor.
I'll dip on anything.
Ooh.
I'll dip on your girl.
The titty pump. I'm feeling it already. You son of a bitch.
Hey, speaking of that.
Yes.
So I'm like, hey, this week I'm all excited to talk to the farm girls, the strong sisters, and you're out here, you're out here, strong sister cucking me on. What's up with that, huh?
We had no idea, dude. I told you we tried scheduling something much earlier, like months ago, maybe, and then they just got busy, and then I got busy, and then we kind of reconnected.
Well, then you had dibs because I talked to them about it like 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before or something.
Yeah. Well, I think they just had some free time, so they were like, "Hey, we're just gonna go around to everybody. We're gonna do everything." So, but anyway, it's all good.
Yeah,
it's a good chat.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to it. I just saw your clips.
Well, tell you the truth, I just got to know them kind of. So my chat wasn't that in depth. I think you guys covered something really serious over there. I forgot what right? No, because it's had a title, and I forgot.
Yeah, well, yeah, I asked him about farming, like some practical stuff, and then talked about like the meaning of farming and the importance of getting people back into the mindset of, growing food and.
Well, dude, this turned out well because I wanted to talk to them about that kind of, but it didn't pan out because I guess we just, me, I ramble and shit. I just kind of got to know them, and then you finished it off. All right, tag team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Pretty funny that they were on both of our channels.
Back to back.
Somebody said Heidi go to bed. I don't see Heidi in
Heidi
here.
Go to bed. She's not in here?
I don't see any of her comments.
What's going on? Heidi's slacking?
Apparently she's
supposed
to go to bed. Heidi go to bed.
I don't think she ever sleeps, man.
No sleep.
She'll like till Brooklyn. Any more questions?
No. Everything, like once we stop talking about Schmovid 19.
Everybody's like, fuck these guys.
Yeah, it's like half of the viewers just went away. That's fine.
Oh yeah.
I wonder what Ray and Danny were talking about.
I don't know. Must be. And this new bioenergetic thing, is this Danny's thing, or is this like all of their things?
The helpline?
Yeah. The helpline. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's probably something he does,
Oh, Danny's branching out, man.
Yeah, you know.
When are we gonna go visit him in Mexico, Mr. Kyle?
Uh, dude, jeez.
What?
Nah,
What?
I just, if I'm gonna go anywhere, it's gonna be like, I don't know. I kind of like to go to LA. I kind of like to go to, we
Woo!
Ukraine, obviously.
I told you, my
There's just a
man.
lot of
Open invite.
places, a lot of different places.
We can get you a shirt. Get another Russian girl wearing a fuck oat milk shirt. Take a picture of you guys together. Be great modeling.
Yeah, that would be cool. But
Yes.
I guess now's not the time to go to Ukraine, huh?
Oh yeah, there's some shit going on there, but nah, I don't know. My cousin lives there. They're in Kiev. I don't know him and her. I just talked to them the other day, and they're fine. I think it's just on the border or whatnot, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That whole situation's been fucked, dude. Yeah, it's really sad, honestly. We talked about it with you a little bit the other time, right?
Maybe. Um,
No.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but Ukraine can't. The facts on the ground are not going to support Ukraine being in NATO.
Right.
And
Well,
there's some people. There's a, as you know, there's people that of there's Russians and Ukrainians who have beef, and
hmm.
Russia is just not going to let a state on its border, have an antagonistic government. It's way too strong. It's got all kinds of leverage over Western Europe and Central Europe with oil and gas.
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to turn into
It's
fighting,
sad.
but I mean,
No,
Germany's
probably
already
not.
said they won't ship weapons to Ukraine because they want Russian gas for the winter. Um,
No, they ain't going anywhere. But that's what I'm saying. It's fucked up, dude. Ugh, I
I
don't know.
every day. This is how I'm part of the Orthodox tradition. Every day I pray for a Slavic alliance to take hold, because I hate brother wars, and it's funny, it's funny how sometimes you can't hate anybody more than who you're close to and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
not that they should be the same country or anything, but there, if there could be an agreement between all the
Yeah.
Slavic countries to have a zone, basically a Slavic Union or Slavic zone, that's headed
Yeah.
by Russia, but is fair to everybody, because NATO is not going to be your friend, especially as America declines the ability to. They're going to have to come up with some kind of post-American arrangement, and hopefully that. I mean, usually these things do get decided through fighting. But hopefully, it can go some other way.
Hmm. Oh man.
Because I need that caviar.
Slavic Brothers for life. Yeah, dude. You fucking better get on it before it all
Yeah,
disappears.
I'm not going to know how to serve
Fucking
it. I'm not going to know how to serve myself
yeah.
caviar.
Yeah, don't buy any serving dishes, dude. Just yeah, get some bread, get some caviar, and some butter. Make sure the butter's good. Yeah, you know what's up with butter. I forgot. So
Yeah.
you're good. And then black tea. Black tea has to be black tea. And then get some. You can get some jelly, like real, not jelly, jam. I guess you guys call it a different thing. Like real
I've been eating
jam.
lingonberry.
Yeah. We have those
Yeah.
lingonberry. There's a black currant, whatever.
Yeah.
Just get one of those jams that are real, and then dump that in your tea. Mix it up. You could put a little honey in there too. Just mix them both up in there. Bite of the caviar, put your brod, and down the hatch with the tea, or have a shot of vodka out of the Soviet Union shot glass
That's
that you
right.
have now,
Yeah,
sir.
I should put that in
That's
this
right.
room. Um,
We'll get you something. Eventually, we'll keep building on that. I'll get it when you're, I don't know, move somewhere. We'll get you a nicer setup. We'll keep adding on.
oh, we have one last question here.
Okay.
This may be kind of deep, but
Oh.
do either of you have perfectly normal conversations with reasonable people and wonder how they would react to a slightly controversial subject?
Hmm.
I
Do we have reasonable conversations and wonder, or do we have reasonable conversations? Is the question. What's the question?
Yeah. So you're talking with somebody about a non-controversial subject, and you think to
Hmm.
yourself, how would this person react if I brought up a controversial subject?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't really need to wonder because I have had that experience, and well, I guess it's mostly with friends and family. So with strangers, it's a little different. With friends and family, um, they get quiet most of the time.
That's a good reaction though. Better than screaming Russian style, brother.
I don't know. There's really nowhere to go from like the icy, like the Protestant,
Icy cold.
icy,
Yeah.
like this is
Grass is
this
always
is
greener.
simply something we do not discuss.
Kyle. Is it just like Kyle Mamunis? Does your mom do the American like middle name thing when she angry at
No,
you?
no.
No. Oh, okay. Okay.
Um, but yeah, I don't. I don't.
How?
I'm not really a controversial person. I'm not really political, so I never really have any problems like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't have problems. No, I just have. How much interacting do you do on your job? Like, somewhat, but I mean, like, or you're mostly doing like actual hands-on shit all day long, right? You're not like chatting with people in and out, or are you?
These days, for the past like since November or so, I've been mostly on the computer writing and reading things to put to reference and like
Hmm.
analyzing data, and not so much the bench work that was earlier this year or earlier last year.
You're busy.
And
Yeah, with me, it's like, I'm chatting with people. You know what I mean? So I'm just chatting. So we're always
mhm.
chatting. So we start talking to people, and it's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And then boom, can you believe what Biden said? Or, it's just people did. So yeah, I don't get controversial with people. I just, I have fun with it.
I sometimes
Um,
get controversial with I have lunch with coworkers, and like one of them's from Brazil and the other one is just like might not know about a subject, and I'll just like say something that
Drop it.
if they knew what I was talking about would be like about this Russia Ukraine thing. Like if I was just like, yeah, the American sphere of influence is just going to start shrinking, and they're not going to be able to get like queer eye for the straight guy in Ukraine, like because of the gas.
They already took down SpongeBob. You can't even do SpongeBob in Ukraine. You know
Yeah, and like if they
that?
understood what I was talking about on like a this is illiberal, like this is a
Yeah.
discussion that doesn't presuppose the world dominance of liberalism, they might be shocked.
Yeah.
Um, Kyle, you were
It's
telling the
sad,
sisters that
huh?
you wanted
Kind
to run
of.
for office. No, I said I wanted to take state power, not run for office. Um, Kyle, have you read Mencius Moldbug? Yeah, I don't like the guy. Curtis Yarvin, that is to say, Mencius Moldbug.
No idea.
Yeah, he's a blogger. He's kind of like
Mm.
a tech bro. He's friends with Peter Thiel. Thiel.
Thiel. Thiel. Thick? Are you gonna say thick?
Thiel. Uh, all right. Okay. All right. Now we're just
We're
yeah.
good. We're
I mean,
blabbering.
we're chilling. It's a chill stream. We talked about this
Yeah.
new thing that I just learned about, and
Me too. Thanks for teaching us all, dude. We talk about some macrophages and stuff,
yeah.
electron microscopy, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. It's great. It's a great technique if to survey a crime scene.
Okay, what do you say? What do you say? How much longer are we going to be talking about it, though? How much longer? Okay, a year? 2 years? Do you think in 2 years are people still going to be like,
Oh, we'll always be talking about
okay,
it.
always?
This was so I believe in I forget what it's called, like a theory of like social events, like so 9/11 was one.
Hmm. I mean, like, okay, it's going to be relevant. Like, as far
Hey
as like,
man,
are you going to
9/11 is
be?
still relevant. You still have to take your shoes off at the airport.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
I
That's true.
believe
What about like the New York going into New York pub to and showing your Vax card, all that kind of stuff?
I don't think that's going to last for this virus because they simply can't make the so-called Omicron variant scary anymore. People just don't buy it. It's not dangerous. It's just the cold. It's just the cold, bro.
But I mean, they're still doing that. Like right
They
now, if
are
you go to New
doing
York,
it,
you got to
but
show your card.
again,
How much longer before they
how
stop,
much longer
or
till
they
they
won't ever
stop?
stop,
Probably
or will they
probably
ever?
when this spring comes around and people stop having seasonal viruses because of the
This spring.
yeah. I don't think so. Okay, assuming they don't roll out. So if they vaccinate, this is where the Geert Vanden Bosch thing comes in. He said if, and I believe what his perspective on this, if they vaccinate, if they come up with a different vaccine for the Omicron virus, they will spur further evolution accelerated, and that could create a more dangerous strain, or rather not create, but cause a more dangerous strain to become more prevalent. And that could, so in essence, doing something could extend, if they are able to get another vaccine on the market before, say, the spring, summer of 2022, then they could accidentally or whatever extend the crisis for another year or two. But assuming that they can't, and all they have is this stupid old vaccine, and they just keep boosting, which who the heck knows what that's going to do. I mean, that itself is a selective act, but I think at this point it's just like a 10% efficacy. It's like it's laughable. It would never pass FDA scruple if this thing was brought apolitically to them as regulators. It would never pass. So yeah, I think that they're fighting a losing battle, and at some point, I mean, but the problem is some rules can outlast. Like, there has never been a real terrorist caught by the TSA.
Right. Okay. And we're still doing
and
it. Yeah.
Furthermore, when they test it, when they have agents that try to smuggle stuff, the TSA doesn't catch them. So in other words, like the TSA policies and procedures are not effective against, similar to the COVID vaccine, these things are not effective against the things that they're supposed to prevent.
Yeah. But I mean, so I don't know, dude. I think it's still going to be for at least another year in places like New York and LA, the whole show me your card and wear a mask at the concert, which you then go into and then take off. And
I don't know. There's possibly, but there's also a critical mass of other places that could change such that the status. So those places do it for status. Like, I'm a good liberal. I believe in science. I fucking love science. And that's status. That's basically like 500 years ago, it would be somebody who's in good standing with their church. Okay. But if they stop getting that because they're doing it for the status. So don't think of it in terms of like it's like, what could change the status? What could change the status accumulation or whatever from actions? And if enough places and enough people kind of in the middle, people that are middle of the road people, just completely flip and they're tired of it, and you could lose that status, and that will cause the phenomenon to rapidly reverse. That's the fastest way that something could change. There's a critical mass of social something that could happen. It's really hard to predict beforehand.
Yeah. But I don't think it's going to happen like that. I think it's just going to fade away slowly, Doug, for 1.5 years.
Well, they're already backpedaling. I mean, they're already saying, well, okay, natural immunity does work. Like, they had to say that, and it's ridiculous that they somehow, like, pathologized that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that it wasn't even talked about at first, right? At all, for a better part of 2 years, I guess.
I think so. Okay, I think once normal people start going, oh yeah, did you hear what they said? Like, in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, we're all going to die. Like normal people, like big normie. And then, in the middle, it was like, oh, I wish this was over. But like, oh man, why can't people just get vaccinated? Like, let's all just get through this. Once big normie switches to, oh, have you heard what they said now? Oh yeah, here we go. Like, here's another, oh, am I going to have to put my mask back on? Like, here comes another strain. Like, oh, is it?
Okay, but how close are we to that? How much percent
right
are we
on
close
the
to
edge,
that?
Man. Right on the edge.
Well, you think we're 99% of the normies saying that?
I'm not saying 99%. I'm saying so these things move in like gradually and then all at once, that phrase. And we're right before the all at once.
Fucking hope so, man.
I mean, it's hard to, like, because in a place like where you're at, but I'm just saying, like, the way that the people around me are talking, the same people, like, I share an office with people who I've heard had conversations last year about how if a parent sends their kid to school who's not vaccinated and somebody gets sick from them or something, they should be like charged with attempted murder. I listened to that conversation. I'm not kidding. Those people,
Yeah.
those same
Yeah.
individuals are not
Yeah.
morally confident about this COVID regime anymore. They don't talk about it. They
Yeah.
don't talk
At
disdainly.
least they're a lot more quieter about it,
Right. They
right?
don't
Yeah,
have the
I'm
moral
having the same.
confidence.
See, like, but again, like, dude, no, no, no. I agree. I'm saying I'm having the same experience, but then at the same time, I'm flying back from fucking Miami to LA, and this lady turns to me and says that I need to press my mask more firmly around my face, like it wasn't good enough. Did you see? Did you see? I tweeted about that as a
Yeah.
joke because it's true story.
I mean, if you're going
And then,
to, who cares, right? I'm telling you, man,
no,
there will be a time when that person will say that she never told you to do that.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying I'm kind of having. We're like maybe you're right. Maybe we're on that edge where it's like the last of the few normies are still.
You know what this
masking up,
reminds me
and
of?
then-
I was a big campus leftist for the first couple years of my undergrad, and it was right before the Iraq invasion. Okay. And everybody was all gassed up for that. They were all like, rah, rah, you know. And I was this big like anti-war person, you know, for those kinds of reasons. Like I would have fit in LA. And I had all my information about how there's not actually WMDs and to the CIA and George W. Bush is a big liar, which I still all believe, but kind of from a different perspective. But anyway, and then that thing goes real bad, right? For years. And when it finally turns over, now this did take years, but the same family members who like argued with me about it, you know, we'd have those really crappy, like those Thanksgiving arguments you're not supposed to have. Those same people, I heard them saying they were always skeptical or they were always against the Iraq war.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, I've had that experience too in my life. Yeah. You're
That
right.
is how Big Normie is. Big Normie
Works.
actually
Functions.
doesn't remember what Big Normie thought before. And you just have to think, you can't think of them as people with agency. You just have to think of them as like a social movement and like a sociological experiment, which they essentially are.
All right, man. I'm pulling for the spring then, bro. Let's do it.
Yeah. People are talking about Moldbug. Yeah, no, he's just, he's
To make some people
not to
angry.
be trusted.
Not to be trusted.
Yeah, I don't think he has my best interests in mind.
Interest.
Oh man, more questions? Okay, so yes,
All
this is
right.
going to be another obscure ass question. What do you guys think are the psychosocial components that contribute to susceptibility to an unfalsifiable or even a falsifiable narrative?
I feel like we talked about them though, no? I feel like
Psychosocial
that was kind of the
components.
pause.
I will say that a narrative has to fit into the human psyche. Like, in other words, like what I was saying about historical events, like you don't want to, it's better to amplify an historical event that fits with your narrative than to try to create a fake one. If you want to come up with a story like QAnon or something, you know, there was a QAnon in Russia with the White Army. Have you heard about this?
Dude, no, but
So
I'm not
after the
surprised because
Bolsheviks
it's
took
just like
over, right?
everything in
There were
Russia.
all of these, you know, people that wanted to retake the state. The White Army, the remnants of the White Army, okay? And you know why they didn't? Or, I mean, there was one reason.
One component.
Is there was a Q movement. I've seen this literature. People were sharing it online last year. It was a popular thing. I should have gotten the original sources, but there was people sending out pamphlets around that was like, oh, in 3 months, the White Army is going to retake, you know, whatever. And it actually motivated people to not do anything. People that were like sympathetic and might have organized themselves to try to retake the state. And that's how I see the Q thing. It's like, if you actually are concerned about something, but somebody's like, oh yeah, somebody's out there, they're about to take care of it. Like all the people that you think are bad are about to be arrested by someone.
There's a movie called Собачье сердце, which means like the heart of the dog or of a dog. I'm not sure how they
Hey, that's
translated
it.
it. You're
From the same
what?
author, right?
It's a movie. I'm not sure if it was
Heart of
based
the
on
Dog.
a Heart of the Dog, a Russian movie. It's like from the fucking.
Isn't that from the same author as Master and Margarita?
Uh, Hold on. I'm not sure, bro. I'm not sure. We have to look that up. But the movie,
Okay.
I'm not sure. It might be actually, huh? Look it up. Look it up.
Heart
Look
of
it up.
Oh,
Look it
this
up.
is a 2015 movie.
No, 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 no. Russian movie. It's a Russian movie, right?
Okay.
I'll
I
look it
guess
up
they
in
remade
Russian.
it. 1988.
Собачье сердце. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right.
Yeah, based
Yep.
on Mikhail Bulgakov's novel of the same name.
Okay, you're right. So you know what I was remembering is Vladimir Bortko, the director, because he was kind of like a famous Russian director, or
The
whatever.
Master and
So
Margarita.
yeah, my man, you are bingo. So anyway, you're a fan of shitty old movies. So I'm just kidding. It's a good movie, but it's a good movie for people to watch, especially Americans. Watch that movie because it's about that whole thing, how it happened. You know, there's even a scene where like they come over and this chick is dressed. She has like her hair pulled up, but she has like a man's coat on, and she has like a man's hat on too. And he kind of points out to that. He's like, "Why are you dressed like that? You know, like what do you want to be, a guy or something like that?" And I'm just like, oh, it's kind of funny. When I rewatched it, I was like, oh, it's so funny to see the same things happening in America right now that were happening there in Russia, over 100 years ago now.
Very suspicious. I'm not sure I can do that because that movie
Do
was
which one?
Heart of the Dog. Heart of the Dog was the
Why?
last proposed date that I was supposed to have with you know who, a certain Ukrainian American. Because she was the one that
Oh,
gave me the Master and Margarita
that's
recommendation.
that's how you knew about Bulgakov's story. I see.
Da.
Okay. What do you mean? It's a fucking movie. Da, come on, watch the movie. You'll find yourself another one. Then you can be like, oh my god, why did
Well,
I?
I can't watch it
Oh,
alone. I'm gonna have friends.
you need a Russian friend, kind of tell you the truth, but because it's Russian, obviously. Okay, we'll watch it when you come to LA. How about that?
Yeah.
We'll show.
Oh yeah. Somebody confirmed the Bulgakov authorship.
Very nice.
Yeah. Word up. All right. Okay. It's been 3.5 hours. This has been good. And yeah, thanks everybody. Wow. We've actually gone back up a little bit in viewership. But anyway, I'm gonna hit stop streaming now.
See you later,
Do
everybody.
the
Have a great
be a Sherlock
weekend.
Holmes, not a magic enjoyer.